do some classroom stuff, because if we go out there and we just show them the practical skills, they don't really know where to apply them and how to distinguish between some of those. So there's going to be a classroom for the ladder companies, but there's also, we found is we move people around. Today they may be on a ladder truck, tomorrow they may be, on an engine, all that kind of stuff, not to mention transfers, just day-to-day type operations. So one of the things we felt like was a breakdown was some of those, cross-training opportunities. So talking with the training division, we felt like it would be appropriate to hit the battalion chiefs with it. So we're looking at this one is we want your feedback in here, and we're going to talk about, it's not just reading smoke, and we'll talk about what that all is going to be, but with this kind of train to trainer, we hope that the battalion chiefs will go out with the companies. This will pretty much be mandatory for at least the ladder companies. We want all the companies in the city to go back and review this. This will be going out by video, so they can understand what those condition recognitions and that sort of thing that goes along with it. So that's the preface of the class and kind of how we got to here. This is the last shift that we've done it on. I think it's pretty well received. It's a lot of fire porn out there, and we talk about different avenues, and there is no right and wrong in all this stuff. So reading smoke, size up and beyond. Reading smoke was the preface of it, but the reality is I'm looking at the tactics and the event as a whole. So when does size up start? Okay, from dispatch. So you make that decision. Bass Landing, I didn't know where Bass Landing was, okay, but I knew it had bass in it, and car 5 was going, I knew it was a big house, right? That was a size up. I knew that I had multiple callers, and it was the rear of the house. I processed. There's likely to just run up one of these back decks and into the attic on the way over there. That's just seeing a few of those things. That was, I could have many as more wrong as I did right, but that's part of that size up. And then that size up continues to what? The initial unit, engine 2's 1023. I've got a 2-story residential structure, fire showing. I don't remember what their size up was, but something like that, fire showing on the Charlie side. And sometimes we think about that being the end of the size up. But our reality is our size up does not stop until when? Yeah, 1024, whatever we're leaving, we're still evaluating. We were sizing that one up, worried about a rekindle as I'm driving back to the station in one aspect. You know what I'm saying? It was a very complex. I mean, we're just using one that's very close to us so recently. So that's kind of what we're doing. So a few objectives. Most of it, like I said, we'll go through as video after this point. But make predictions. That's the reason. The size up is to give information and feedback, but it's so I can make a prediction. I'm going to look at this event, and I'm going to compare it to what I know and what I've trained on. So I'm going to look at the building, I'm going to look at the smoke, I'm going to look at all those type of things, but I'm doing that to make a prediction. I'm going to predict that if I take this hose line in that door, I'm going to have this outcome. Does that make sense? And if I'm not able to do those, I'm going to predict that the outcome's not going to not what I want it to be. Okay? So it's a prediction. And that helps us, from a battalion chief standpoint, to determine a strategy, offensive or defensive. And strategies go broader than that, but the basic is we want to determine a strategy, and that's going to help us with that with this class, I think. Helps us direct tactics, because we're going to look at some of the tactics we would use, and then we'll discuss it as a class and say, if this didn't work, what would this happen, and what are my compensations for that? Improve uniformity. There's 5 battalions. They used to say at least 15 different fire departments in Greensboro, right? You had, each battalion was a little different, so we want to try to get away from that somewhat. And improve a little uniformity, and I think we've already done it with some of these guys in the discussion, the stuff that's out there, and encourage discussion. We want you to take this back out to the guys. When I was roving around in the car, sometimes I'd take companies with, I didn't have a busy day, I knew they didn't have a busy day, we just pull up a video. And you would be surprised from a guy that was just bouncing through how well received that was. It had nothing to do with me, it had to do with them having discussions about, and I took more away from that than anybody else did. But it's well received. They like this, I think, in general. So a few objectives there. Reading smoke, the basics. We said it was a reading smoke class, so we'll go through the basics on it, because we'll ask some of these questions. We'll go through their volume, velocity, density, color. Volume is based on the smoke that I see relative to the size of the building. So will it take a different event to fill up a cookout restaurant than it will a Walmart? Okay, two different events. So I can take a cooking fire and have smoke almost pushing out of the cookout. Conversely, I'm not gonna know that there's a fire in Walmart at all with that same thing. So you're gonna be volume that you see, how much of it is it, and is it based on the structure. What gives smoke velocity? Pressure. What gives smoke pressure? What gives it, what causes the pressure? Heat, okay? So the faster it is, the hotter it is. Now you have to make that also relative to what outside conditions are. If it's 95 degrees outside, it's gonna act different than it is if it's 32 degrees outside. It'll cause it to slow down or be faster depending on what those are. Humidity and some other stuff have issues with that. What gives smoke density?
Fuel.
What's burning or incomplete combustion, typically particles that are left over. Because it's alcohol, I don't get much smoke, right? There is no denseness in the smoke because it's burning so clean. But conversely, if I burn a couch, I'm going to see a lot of incomplete combustion and dark smoke. That's what that is. And the one I like on these is we talk about the density or the changes, and we'll drop down to color with that too, relative. When it's burning in the back bedroom or your ranch style house, or the kitchen's on the opposite side, when you rub your hand across the countertop, my hand's black, right? That was color of smoke at the other end of the hallway that has lost that color, lost that speed, lost that density, because some of that stuff, those particles are starting to settle out of it, okay? We're going to compare the smoke leaving like size openings. If it's pushing through a crack equal to what's running through an open door, the crack's going to be more significant in my size up because it took pressure to overcome that. Other thing, the cracks will filter that stuff off of it because it's having to go through, something that's actually going to drag that color or those incomplete combusted products out of it. Continuity of fuel, that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today, is how, if I've got smoke out of this front door and I got smoke out of Division 2 window on the Alpha Bravo corner or Alpha Delta corner, I've got continuity between those two. So we're talking about VES stuff, what are we trying to do? We're trying to stop that continuity, right? So we open a window, VEIS is what they want to do, is we isolate that room. I'm stopping that continuity from where the fresh air intake is to the exhaust on. Turbulent smoke is impending flashover. What does turbulent smoke look like? Boiling. It's got texture to it. I mean, just at a glance, I can take a snapshot on here. I mean, that right there is turbulent smoke, like in the background here. So turbulent smoke is impending flashover, and black, fast moving, the flames are nearby. So if I pull up on one of those and I really got thin black smoke, the flames are right behind it. So it's near where it's free burning on the inside. Turbulent smoke typically, what will change turbulent smoke? What does it want? Oxygen. Get the proper fuel to air mixture, and then it's going to turn red. That's what it wants to do, is turn red. It's got the heat typically, it's got the fuel in it. It's just wanting that proper fuel to air mixture with it. So we'll jump into flow path, and there was one more thing about that slide, and I'll make it back around to it when we get to some of these others in a moment. This is the one that kind of made the flow path famous. We've dealt with flow path. I was telling my dad's been in the fire service for 50 years. They understand what this stuff is. I've been around a long time, you understood, but we didn't have a name to call it. Some people get tore up over new names or whatever. The one that I'm familiar with that made this was in 2004, and I'll show you the picture in a minute, but ATF agent, last name was St. John, if I'm not mistaken. He worked with Montgomery County, Maryland, over a fire fatality, and they started talking about flow path and what that, it kind of give a definition to some of the things we knew about opening and closing the structures. So 100% intake or discharge, and we'll talk about this a lot in some of those slides. If I've got a two-story we're talking about, and I got the window upstairs, and the window's failed. I got a whole window opening on Division 2, and I've got flames out of the top half of that window. Okay, the rest of that window's open. What's happening? Is that 100% discharge? It's what? It's a bidirectional flow. So what's happening in that bottom?
Drawing.
It's intaking air. All right. Conversely, if I take that and I fill that full of smoke or fire out of there, what do I know automatically?
100% discharge.
It's 100% discharge. In order to have 100% discharge, where is the intake?
Somewhere else.
Somewhere else, right? I mean, somewhere else is having an intake somewhere else. So, through the studies, I had to change how I did business. Captain Jones was there. Leo Street reminds me more of what kind of some things went weird on us. But I used to believe that if I opened the door as soon as I got there, spent a lot of years on a ladder truck, most of you are aware, is we could open the front door. I thought I was exhausting the bad stuff out. I mean, I thought I was making that environment better, and I genuinely did, and we had good success with some of that stuff, but then you start to look at the science that goes behind it. UL was able to do the testing where they load these rooms up like houses are, or normal houses would be, and instead of pallets and straw, they actually put, furniture and bedding and curtains and clothes, stuff like that. So they load these things up. Well, they found out when we're opening these doors, they call it ventilation. I like to call it fresh air introduction because I think we get a little bit confused with ventilation. I think of ventilation, when we use that term, is an act that I took with the purpose of making the conditions better. Okay, whether I open the window in order to provide positive pressure or I open the roof in order to provide vertical, but I like to kind of keep my term fresh air introduction. If I force that front door and I leave it open, I used to think it was better. UL tells us around 2 minute mark on a scale of all of their stuff, and the closer to the fire or the bigger the fire or the longer it's been burning, all these things come in there. But around 2 minutes, those rooms were flashing over. So they post-flashed over, and then they burnt back typically because they were based on a 6 minute response, if I'm not mistaken. If I have some of those details in there, it's irrelevant in one thing, but around a 6 minute response time, companies are showing up. What were we doing? If we were a ladder truck, we were forcing the front door a lot of times and then going about our business. If we were waiting on the hose line, I'm thinking I'm letting it vent. Meanwhile, I'm allowing air into it. Fresh air introduction. Conversely, after I was educated on it, I've learned to believe what science told us. That door, and I don't know how I want to do. I'm still all about forcing it. We'll pull it back to limit that intake of air that goes into it. So science has changed some of that stuff for us. So we talked about what 100% intake, 100% discharge, and we're going to control and limit those openings because of science that goes along with it. I'll tell you this story because Jones is here and he can tell you what we know about it. It's a ranch style concrete house, and I can tell you this stuff because I made these mistakes. I went around, did a 360 on it, or most of it. We were riding out of 14, right? There was another unit on the scene that was there, so we pulled up pretty close. No big deal house. I mean, it's pushing smoke. Go around to the backside, I got a partially broken window. All right, I got my hook, I cleared. Okay, and I'm telling you, these are the mistakes that I've made in ignorance because I've had good success with it. So I cleared the window out. Front door still open or still closed. We make it back to the front. When we open the front door, and I may have been the one to open the front door, but I open it. And where I went to was the Charlie window on the Delta side, and I presumed that was the master bedroom. So it was the corner bedroom in the house. I don't know why the fire was so advanced on us, or it just kind of looked weird. So I cleared that window out. And what did I do? That was the only opening in the house. Was it bi-directional or unidirectional at that point?
Intake, 100%.
Well,
But you're talking about on the.
yeah, so I only got one opening now.
Okay.
So I break that window. I cleaned that window out for a
It's doing
point of
both.
exhaust. I
Yeah.
found the fire room, right?
Yeah, it's doing both.
That's not wrong,
Yeah.
except for the timing was wrong. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah.
And I'm not always a never person, but so I break that one out. So it's probably competing for that air right now, but it's letting it have it. So we go back, we open the front door. Okay, I was standing at the front door and it rolled out thick and black about knee high to the front end of the house. Thick and black, and I'm like, this is not adding up. Because I saw the fire distal to the front door, but that's the part of kind of stuff. So we open it up, right? Now what have I done? It's probably getting a little more, the neutral plane raised a little bit, and it's drawing the air. So that other one's probably because I'm a little lower, it's probably mostly 100% discharge on the backside of it. I'm giving it what it wants. So it's rolling out. 43 shows up, they start to set up to cut a hole in the roof because the conditions are, the crew that I train, good guys, hard workers, they take a secondary door. They trained on it. Now, they might have knocked it off the hinges. They hadn't necessarily trained on that, but there wasn't no closing it back, but he was a big guy, William tell you. All right, so he got his secondary opening. Now I've created 2 door openings. Another one that gets raised when they're doing a search. We got 0 visibility and high heat, and it's eating us up. It's eating us up at the front door. You were on the tack line, right? I was behind the tack line. I went right on the search. Thermal imagers blacked out. My crew, we're in a little bitty house. They're right off the thing, and it's eating me alive in this hallway. Why? Why does it eat me alive?
Cause it,
It was coming back to that those openings in that other one. It had overpowered the one vent that it had. It had more fire than it could exhaust out of that one window. And now I'm standing in the flow path. I'm not standing in a great big flow path. I'm standing in a 3-foot wide flow path that is right down that hallway, and it's eating us up. Now,
did it flip? So it was drawn from the back to the front?
well, eventually it was competing for the back window, right, with the
Right.
fire room. That was the only opening we made,
Mhm.
okay? I made. So it's competing for that one. I opened the front door. So
Right.
now it's competing for that a little bit, but it's lower, right?
Right.
So it's gonna naturally raise to the other one. So now but as it's overpowering that exhaust, where is that flow path going? It's going back out to the front.
Right.
It's drawing fresh air in a little bit low, but it's eating our tails by the time we get in the hallway.
Right.
To the point that we couldn't see the room for the fire. I mean, yeah. But it's, and like I said, Cherry Lane, they burnt those guys up. I mean, the thermal, and forgive me, what was the term that they used for that stuff? It cooked them in their gear. It's because of how our gear works with the radiant flow of heat, the radiation of it, not just the.
Basically like a baked potato.
But yeah, it's convection of it.
Convection.
I mean, so you're forcing that air across. It's eating us up. Hole goes in the roof, everything goes fine because we put what? We put water on the fire. So I knew that I did not want to do that again, but I didn't really know exactly what that was. A couple years later, I find this really good report, get to sit in this guy's class, and you're like, hey, I did all that stuff. I did all that stuff that we had success with. Previously, but something went wrong that day. We're talking about a little house, a single bedroom, essentially, but it had a lot of fuel load apparently in there. So I say all that to say, I don't have all the answers, but science has carried us a long way with it. So we're gonna use some of those premises to move forward, and then we're gonna talk about what I see as like the most basic form of that flow path stuff. And like I said, even though since it's out 2004, it's still a little new to us. We don't even teach rookies a lot about flow path. We talk about it a little bit in the smokery, or the smoking stuff through ventilation, and I'm sure they get some of it through fire behavior. But this is the most basic, down and dirty. This particular prop, as far as I can tell, was built for that study that ATF did. And they had a fire fatality on a 3-story apartment complex, had a stairwell that entered in here like mid-level. So essentially it was almost like a split-level house when you come into this stairs. You went down to the first floor unit, up to the second floor, and up to the third floor. They had a window fail, for all argument's sake, on the lower level and opening up here at the top, and the fire run up on them and just exhausted out of the top, lit off, and fatality because of it. So that's kind of where this box is built for. But, so anyway, he's gonna step in front of it in a minute. But this will play out. So we're gonna make our predictions. We're gonna size this box up based on what we've been talking about on flow path. So here's my fuel package. I've got fuel here, more here than here. We're gonna say somehow alcohol based in there, so it burns really clean. All right. So right now there is a doorway here, or a window. Call it a door, just for argument's sake. They got these little doors here. There's one interior here, one interior here. Here, and here. Right now, everything is closed except for the one at the bottom. All right, so why am I only red right there?
Because it was there.
Okay. What's keeping this from turning red?
Ain't got air yet, there's no intake. I mean, it's not drawing back to it
It's got
for
all
it to
the
feed it.
mixture it needs.
It's got all the mixture it needs, it just doesn't have the air that it needs to it. That's a dead-end airspace relative to speed. It's burned all the oxygen out of this one for all intents and purposes. This wants to be red as well, so it's got the heat, it's got everything it needs except for the oxygen. So it's having to compete for that space. And they talk about vent point ignition, so it's only burning out there where you used to see it. I used to believe that if I saw flames here and some continuity, I believed that it was burning all the way back. but that's not necessarily the case. It may only be where it's getting that pure, proper fuel air mixture here. Now, only because of studies I know the answer to this, but is it hotter where it's turned to flame, or is it hotter back here?
Depends on whether it started out further back and burned for a while and developed some heat or not. I mean, if that's the only place it was and it burned out, it probably
Right.
isn't very hot.
Well, and this may not be the best scenario with that, but through their testing, if it's not flaming, it's significantly cooler.
Yeah.
All right? So if I'm allowing it to flame, I'm allowing that, if Tim goes back there and breaks that window out early before we even get the hose line, and there was some other delays that went on in this day and nothing to do with engine 14 or anybody, you know, things happen. But there was some other delays that delayed that water. And if I'm allowing this to free burn, I am greatly increasing the temperatures in there. You have to go look through the studies in it. It's just enough for me to tell you the HATA that's greatly increased in it. All right? So it's better when it's not flaming, and I didn't know that. Without their science that goes along with it, for the measuring tools, and they put measuring tools in these scenarios that they did back in these areas, relatively speaking. But it's a little hotter right here where it's actually flaming. Okay, so now we're going to talk about prediction. This is, he's got two little, it's like a half-hatch door here. But if I close this up, what's going to happen?
Is there something that's covering the front? Is it like a
Yeah, this is glass.
Okay.
It's like fiberglass in
It
here.
should,
Yeah.
it should go out. Should go
Yeah.
down.
It's going to choke it out, right? It's going to starve. It's burn up all the oxygen that it had, and it's going to starve for it. All right? If I open this one and I open this one, what's going to happen?
Flash
Well,
of
it
the
depends, is the other little door closed on the?
Yeah, well, we're going to create an opening here. We're going to create an opening here. We're going to leave this one open. What's going to happen? Will this turn red from here to there eventually?
Yeah.
All right, remember I told you it took 2 minutes. That 2 minutes has to do with balance.
Yeah.
So it won't be instantaneous typically. It'll balance itself off and get its proper fuel to air mixture, and it takes a moment to get that balance in there. All right, will this be an intake or a discharge if this is open and this is burnt?
That should be probably
It's going to depend on pressure and size of it.
or end conditions, I mean. if it's
Also
like
size
windy-
open.
It will, but
Yeah,
think
and,
about it.
I mean, you
Is
got
that- if these are
external,
equal size openings,
okay,
this will be 100% intake
yes.
and this will be 100% discharge. Why do I know that? How do I know that that's going to be the case?
Because it has nowhere else
Heat
to
rises.
come from.
Right. Hot air rises, right? I mean, right, so it's gonna draw low and vent here. So if we go on that house and it's competing, okay, the scenario I gave you before, if it's competing that bilateral or bidirectional flow, and I have continuity from the front door to there, and I open the front door, what do I expect that bidirectional flow to become?
It's going to be a discharge.
It'll be 100% discharge, right? In theory, that's my expectation with that. So that makes sense? Because I vented it low. If it's the same floor level, if this were open to the outside and I open to here, I expect it to balance, right? It'll be intakes on both flows and balance to a neutral plane to where it's in there. Fair statement? Okay, that help us with our predictions. And I think it will. We'll talk about some of that stuff. All right, I'm gonna let this play out. We'll see if we're right with our prediction. Okay, everything's closed up but that one. And he's gonna step right in front of his camera here and say, he didn't know I was gonna be teaching off of his slide. There's a lot of them out there. Theirs was just with the least editing to be able to get what I wanted to show you. All right, that's the scenario I gave you a moment ago. Takes a second to balance. 100% intake, 100% discharge. Why is it puffing? There for a minute.
It's going to be
I'm trying to
ventilation
balance
restricted.
the front.
Starving.
Yeah, it was still, it wanted more air than it had, and it was
Yeah.
trying to balance that stuff out. I can't tell you, I can't define that as clearly as the other. And look, it pulls it right back to where we were when we first started on. Same scenario again, open here, open there. All right. Make our next prediction. If he opens this one and that one, what's gonna happen?
Been on top. Oh,
Yeah.
Is it with the lower
Okay.
one still? Yeah.
Yep.
okay.
so go ahead and take it to the bottom.
It's good, yeah. It's still trying to go for height.
Right.
Heat rises.
Theoretically, it's gonna take a little bit longer. This might have actually ignited off of this port down here as well, versus having to go all the way through there for that.
Well, you just ignite it off through.
Yeah, it could have ignited off of this part. It made me think that maybe it did. It's irrelevant. Like I said, you give it a few seconds, this is gonna bounce. And this'll, if this fuel package up here will get off, you know, to the point that it'll off gas enough, it'll probably be red all the way. They close the door down here and watch what happens. All right, he's opening it back, playing with us. Before I get it. Does that help us with our predictions? All right.
Yeah, you can see how you're, exactly
Yeah,
how you're
yeah,
structured.
and like I said, Flow Pass has been out there. That was a 2004 release, so it's at least 16 years old. That was the first that I had seen it. I got a phone call from a guy that was a friend of mine. He was like, I know you just reading smoke stuff. There's a guy teaching down here. I don't remember where he was. He's like, you need to see this. And Brownell and I actually got to go sit in his class, but he's got an excellent 3-hour video. And this is it. We won't play this one. Like I said, he does a great job of explaining all of it. And like I said, he's with ATF, or he was at that time, and they worked with Montgomery County, Maryland, with a fire fatality. But they did a really good job of explaining how that situation went. All right. Can you give me a size up to you?
Sure, single-story residential, moderate smoke showing
Offensive mode?
offensive mode, yeah, from there.
All right. We're gonna get this pretty quick.
Yeah, I see the 360.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a 360 and see
We'll
what's
do a
going.
360. Okay.
What's the, what's the,
And
time of
You don't
day
get
and
many 360s on.
what's
video
the-
cameras don't do this.
what time of year is it? Is it
Grass is dead, I'm gonna say late fall.
late fall,
No
winter?
Winter, when it leaves them.
I was wondering what the temperature was, because external temperature makes a difference on smoke.
But you've had a pause on here.
Door. They got a bench.
Well-
Just like that, I think.
It's like it's changing.
What do you see? Sorry. What do you see? All right, I got smoke
Smoke stain,
out of here. I got a hip
Smoke
roof
stain.
house, I
Smoke
got a
stain,
little bit of
window
smoke there. Is it pretty equal, relatively speaking?
relatively.
Okay,
yeah,
most of it's out of there.
Yeah.
See that opening right there?
Is that broken?
I'm going to say, for the sake of mine, they didn't break it. I'm gonna say that broke itself, okay? So where's my fire room at?
That much smoke, I'm saying, on the east side, catch fire.
Says
that
right
got
there.
had it.
Right there at the window.
Could be. What caused this window to fail?
So I was like, not a lot of smoke pushing out of it.
Yeah. All right, is it competing, where's this getting its air from right now? What do you think?
Right there.
Right there, the whole retail.
From what we can tell, right? Do you have any reason to believe the back door's standing wide open?
Mm.
Don't know, but I really don't have the reason to believe that. And, you know, if I had more openings, and we'll start to watch how it reacts. I liked asking this question the other day, I had Weaver, I said, how long we gonna be there? I mean, we're sizing up, how long we gonna be here? The company's gonna be on scene for what? If it's 10 o'clock at night, are we gonna be there at 3:45 in the morning? Probably not, okay? It's 3:30 in the afternoon, I'm thinking I'm gonna be eating supper, right? Probably back at the station in a couple of hours, right? I mean, you're making, it's a small house.
Right.
It's maybe a room and contents, or maybe into the attic a little bit, right? I mean, those are the type of things that we think of. Watch all of it, see, watch this.
Pushing hard on
Yeah,
the face.
road.
Color changed.
They gonna give what it needs.
The window's giving it what it needs.
Look at the change of color, smoke.
Very good.
Yeah, so it got more oxygen.
He's getting ready to really like.
Go back.
Yeah, when it's getting good.
There's a
Okay.
Calvary.
Said, slow down, hold on.
All right.
It needs his air
Put that
back.
hose in that window.
Yeah. How long before they're gonna be contacting fire?
So that-
Instant.
You can
I
see
mean,
through the
just a
roof.
As
couple
soon as the door
months.
comes open, right? You ready to flow this water on it, right?
You got it.
We know that, we size this up, I'm not taking rocket scientist. This is actually still intact, I think. And this is almost 100% discharge, and I'm saying it's drawing from right here. Once again, it's not instant. It takes a second for that stuff to balance. It's gonna be burning oxygen up inside of the house or wherever it's leaking stuff from to begin with. But if I were to open this door and not put water on it, what's gonna happen? All right, this is gonna turn red out of here, right? And this is gonna intake right here, and I'm gonna get some dark black smoke that's gonna equal that out of here, and eventually it'll turn red, right? Fair statement? I don't know, but we're making a prediction. It's my lie, I'll tell him. Okay? So, now, one of the things we want to talk about is this shift we have the newest battalion chiefs, as I've stood in front of. So we're a little bit more in tune, but what we used to compliment company officers, the ones that were seasoned, the guys that you know, is, and I'll never forget, and it was Cliff Oakley was the one at the time, they said, you know, had it well-deserved, great fireground operator, and I'll never forget one of the guys told me, he said he always hit it in the unburned side. Okay? Is that what we do now? It's a little different, but it was up until, if you'll think back, it was pretty recent that you would
5 or
go
6
through.
years ago.
But that was the talk. He always hit it in the unburned side. Had great success with that, right? We believed certain things. Science has told us a few different things on it. So we talk about how do we make that adjustment today? Used to, if you know, when you were in there, and I've been around it a little while, especially in the county guys, and that you got your helmet displaced because somebody flowed a hose line on you from the outside. But you was hot. You're supposed to be mad, right? You ain't supposed to be flowing water on me. Now, if they wet me on the inside now because they saw something on the outside, I'm pretty good with it. Okay, I can live with that. But it needs to be coordinated. But I'm just telling you, we've adjusted things. So UL's class certainly wasn't the last one, and I'm trying to think which one. There's been so many, and they do a great job with the science behind it. But they said they do all that stuff, and the neat thing about it was one of them, he started to kind of, Stephen Kerbert figured out that at the end of the day, they're like, okay, well, how do I apply this? You know, he had gotten down to the tactics. He really went into the tactics, which was awesome. And he never tells you how to do it, but he was like, our takeaway on this one. And the takeaway from that particular one was fastest water to the fire, and conditions improve 100% of the time with water application. Fastest water to the fire, conditions improve 100% of the time water application. Does that mean I'm going to walk by a fire blowing out of a window to make that unburned attack? Probably not. Whatever fastest water to the fire is. Does that mean that I'm going to jump their pallet fence, fight their 3 pit bulls to go to the backside because it was blowing out of a window? Probably fastest water to the fire in that scenario is to go through their house, and that's still the fastest water to the fire. But we are going to put water on it. Now, so I flow, let's say this turns red, they're going to put that out probably before it turns red on it, but we pull up on that scenario. Remember, we're bleeding hose lines now. We're not going in and letting it exhaust to build the room up a little bit before we get water. We want to make sure, so we're bleeding that in there. So I want to bleed it into this window, right? How long? So let's just say that this is blowing fire out of it. How long are you going to let it flow in that window?
Not long.
I'm gonna try to get
Give me a time. Give me a time.
30 seconds.
30
How long
seconds.
does it take to put fire?
30 seconds. Something else. And I've had that answer in every one of them.
I
So
did 10 to 15.
10 or 15
I
seconds.
mean, just,
all right, if you're going out there and teaching you guys, I want you to do this. 1 1,000. 2 1,000. 3 1,000.
that's all he gets.
4 1,000. 5 1,000. 6 1,000. 7 1. Anybody gonna flow longer than 7 seconds with that nozzle open at 150 gallons a minute? So, and I say that to say, we say 30 seconds. And I'll pick on my county guys. I used to hate the window attack. Sometimes you had to do that. You may have guys go be back 30 minutes later. Whenever you told them, those guys were still doing. You know what I'm saying? You know, not all of them, but a lot of them, you would put them on there, and that's how dedicated they were. They still would busted that window. But that's that window attack, and I think that's that mentality we go through. Was this? We're just going to finish this fire right here. No. And you said it, David, a while ago. It's a reset. That's all I'm looking to do is put a reset back on that fire to cool that environment so I can get to it, and and it's not gaining on me as much as it gets there. Okay, but do that little count thing, because I had to do that for myself sometimes, because we catch ourselves just a minute. A minute's a long time. All right. So we're worried about water supply, a lot of different other things. Everybody that wants to combat these type things, but just think about that scenario. All right. So how about ventilation? That's what the stem of this class. How am I going to vent this fire?
Say how?
It's venting from right here. We didn't intend for it to be pushing out of these eaves, okay? But how? What method am I gonna use, horizontal or vertical?
I'm going up.
Vertical? All right, now I'm gonna throw one more at you, okay, so you know where your perspective is. What's the latest and greatest in the fire service right now? What are we concerned about killing us?
CO.
All right, CO's one of them, but cancer?
Talking about cancer.
All right, and it's a trick question because we don't know what the latest, but we're talking about deconning gear before we leave the scene. What am I washing off of you?
Smoke.
The stuff that's living in there, right?
Right.
If I can treat that like a hazmat and I can minimize your exposure to that to begin with, that's worth something as well, right? All right, what's the other, that's the last class, or last process I studied for. Cardiac was still the #1 killer of firefighters, is that correct? I don't know. It was last time I looked at it.
Cancer overtook it.
Well,
I think it is.
cancer,
I think cancer.
it's close. But there's still a lot of us that are dying of cardiac events on the scene. Chief Key, did you have any concerns about cardiac events the other night when we were on the 3rd and 4th box, or what us? But, I mean, you know what I'm saying, these things start to roll around for that. That's a scenario that you're worried about. All right, so if I can release that stress, which is heat, visibility, and all that other stuff, if I can make it more efficient. So ventilation, if we're able to perform it, it's going to help that environment. It's going to help our firefighters and certainly going to help the victims that's in there. Now, I'm not going to tell you that this one in just a minute, we're not going to change our mind. You said vertical, just so you know who the teacher is, I'm always going to default to, I want a hole in everything. Andy laughed at me. You know, I'd cut a hole in a giant house. But, I mean, I would default to that typically, but I am realistic and realize it's not the answer on every one of them, and it's not as effective as it gets there. Okay? So we got to think about it. We got one that says vertical, one that says horizontal. Reality is if it's not into the attic, we're probably going to get rid of it pretty quickly with with some positive pressure after we get a knock on the fire. But we got a decision to make. But I think we all agree we need to get this out of here in a timely fashion. It's going to make a safer environment for us and for them. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. I apologize. I don't know if this one's going to let me. Keep going, let me advance it.
Yes,
You
Bob.
should light that bottom bar, but it's not doing it.
This one is doing different. Yeah, pretty-
But I like how you asked the question, what are you gonna do? And I have to make that decision just as quick as you just asked me that question. Almost. We gotta move one way or the other.
Right.
And the decision's based on what I see right there and what I see around that yard. In order for me to make an exhaust opening on the back side of that house somewhere, somebody's gotta get through that fence. Somebody's gotta get around to it. And usually by the time we pull up, by the time all that's happened, I got somebody on that roof, in that situation.
Sure.
Where we're already doing something. So that's what I base that on. I think that's a decent looking house for us to be able to make a quick change of what's happening on the inside within just probably a minute and a half of checking on scene. I think that's how we base that decision. I mean, that's how I do it. And I mean, not just that, but other things.
Sure, it's a hip roof house with a low pitch, they hold the heat down. I mean, they lend themselves very well to vertical.
Right.
Well, let me ask you and you ladder people, because I haven't been on ladder since it's been a while. And, I mean, do you guys figure out like where the seat of the fire is before you choose where you're gonna put it, or how are you making your decision about where to? Because I've seen holes put where they didn't belong. They just completely ineffective. And so I'm just curious,
Right.
like, what is the rationale, and are we teaching people to try to place them?
Well, we need to be teaching them, and this is a good example. So this house is somewhere in the middle.
Mhm.
You're probably not gonna hit the fire room, right?
Right.
I mean, the odds are, but is that a common attic?
Mhm.
Yes.
So anywhere that I take the lid open on that thing, closer to the center, we're gonna be, is that a fair statement? Whereas if I take a garden apartment and I'm burning the end of the road, I don't wanna go to the middle of the common attic. I wanna go closer to that one. The other thing too, she said his truck would probably have a hole in that in a minute and a half. Our round numbers are about 5 minutes. A hole is a victory in a residential fair
Right.
statement. Around 5 minutes, maybe, this one's pretty simple.
That one's easy.
Yeah. But, you know, in the 5 minute mark, I ought to be opening a hole up. So I gotta figure out where it's gonna be in 5 minutes. Yeah, I can let it get by me sometimes, or, you know, compromise with that sort of thing. Commercial structure is gonna be a little different. Commercial, I tend to think that your round numbers on commercials, and we've done this through testing, not on fires, you know, but about 15 minutes, if I can have a company put a 4x8 hole in a flat roof, that's a pretty good victory.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's,
And we've got, I mean, I've got enough video and testing that we can say that, but we need to be thinking about that. You're riding the car, I need to think about that. What has happened in 15 minutes with that company? In 15 minutes, well, that's
Change
about
the
all I
bottles.
got them for.
Change
That's
the
a
bottles.
tour,
Right.
that's a bottle, right?
Right.
And that's a 4x8 hole. So I don't even talk about an 8x8 hole in 30 minutes, because that's another company, right? To get in there. In
well,
the second part of
that's
that.
completing the hole and then getting off. And
Yeah.
that's a
Right.
tough task to do in 15 minutes.
Yep. And like I said, I can change one thing. We had one of the roofs when Stevens Pipe, and I can't remember the other building, one had one additional nail in the decking boards, and it probably cost us 5 minutes in that same thing because of one additional nail in it. How much it wouldn't louver up difference, just a little bit of construction difference. Now, these are very complex buildings to vent as well. Yes, please.
They're not
See,
gonna
no,
promote
it
you.
would pull up on my computer too, it pulls up the bar.
Good.
I'll take it.
Discharge.
That's all it was, that.
I think, you know, the other, on something like this,
I'm not
we make a decision of vertical, horizontal, we're basically moving towards both at the same time. I mean, technically, that's how most ladders are doing it. We're moving towards both at the same time. If we get on the roof and we see that fire's under control, they call back, hey, we've hit it, we're good, they don't talk about heat. You don't have to finish the hole, or you don't have to cut the hole. If you're already up there and ready and getting ready to, you can come down.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's something that has to be understood, that's not always understood too. You don't have to.
And another one from this standpoint, I mean, from the chief standpoint and the incident command, is I've had it, and I've had a very seasoned, we were outside, it's been many years ago, very seasoned, well-earned respect for a captain. He's like, we're good, we don't need a hole, and this thing's boiling, right? His environment inside, reading smoke is an outside activity. He's inside in a bubble somewhere that they've got a knock on a room and it's ahead of them. They don't realize it. So I caution myself, I rarely plan to ask them when I see conditions that I know. Most
Well, it
times
looks
you're
like
asked to see, you ready for a hole, you know, when you're from an instant command standpoint, and then I gotta pray, I gotta say, either go against them, say negative, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the hole. And I'm prepared to do that, but if I know the answer, I don't have to ask that question. Does that make sense to you? Is if it looks like it's boiling smoke out of it and a vent hole's gonna help it, I'm not gonna ask fire tax permission.
Yeah.
And that's overstated. However, I watched that event happen, and then it was like, oh, that guy's good. I mean, he's real good, but the condition warranted. I knew the chief, I knew the guy inside, and I knew that it needed a hole because we were standing outside. I mean, we were in that position to watch those conditions change. So, nothing against anybody there, but just be cautious of that. When you see that, you don't have to have their permission to do it if it tells you that's what it is. And not we don't, but just process putting yourself through those acts. I witnessed that particular one. And short time later, we were cutting the hole in the roof, but we've been delayed.
I think it seems easier when it's like, when you got a boiling fire, you know you gotta do it. The ones that I've seen people, what I consider mistakes were pretty small fires
Yeah.
that people were very
Right.
gung ho, jumped
Absolutely.
up, put a hole in the roof, and it's like,
Yeah.
we had the fire out almost before you.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, yes, it's happened. Absolutely.
All
All right, so this one, single story residential structure, heavy smoke showing, assuming command, what kind of mode? Offensive mode. What's the difference in this one and the other one? You want to see a second of it?
I was like,
Size of the house, maybe a little bit bigger.
Volume.
yeah.
All right.
Pressure
More
on the,
boiling.
Yeah, pressure in the front.
that's the pressure.
Probably.
Color's about the same speed.
Starting to go gray.
All right. It's leaking through here. It's leaking through some of the roof. It's pushing pressure out here. I've got it on that side, darker colored here. Where's my darkest smoke, fastest moving?
Gable end.
It happens to be right
right
here,
there,
and like I said, I paused it.
What's that at the top there?
Yeah, I thought it was Gable too.
Look at the gable end at the top.
Yeah, actually,
Right there.
you may be right there. All right, but what is that one telling me too here? All right, have I got continuity from here to there?
No.
Not-
Yeah, well, I got
Not
some
color,
sort of.
Not
not
it's
color
all
continuity.
between
You have
some.
similar pressures.
Is that what you
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Where's the fire? All right, stop.
It's to the left.
Probably
It's
so.
to the left.
Okay, to the left. Is that garage an addition?
I don't
It
know.
looked like it.
Looked like something a little bit odd about it was tied in. Maybe that's the little kitchen area that was added on the back that goes to the garage. All right. Now, when I force this door, what do I expect to see? We're making predictions. What do I expect to see? Because I'm looking, right?
I'm not expecting to see fire out of that window or out of that.
It don't look like,
Expect to see minimal smoke.
Yeah,
Oh, inside there.
Intake.
I don't know. My gut, I'm gonna tell you where my gut was, is I didn't expect to see much here. I think it's in the attic, and I think if I trash
That's
the
what I was
attic back
saying.
to that other one,
Look at it.
most of it's in there, huh?
look like it's attic, more
Yeah,
attic to
I would
me.
expect this to be pretty
But I see a
clear.
little smoke.
Look at that little wisp right there. That's a little different, right?
Yeah.
Now watch what happens when he opens it.
Ooh,
What did I tell you about Leo and it rolled out on me like that? I was like, this don't look right.
right.
Alright? Now, we talk about coordinated attack, as we should. For years, we had fantastic success with holes going in roofs and hose line going in there, and we didn't burn the world down, we didn't burn people up, and we rarely went, hey, are you ready for you got water on fire? Right? I mean, why did that work for us so well? Why did that coordination work without us saying anything?
Small house.
Small houses? Fire attack was doing their thing, vent was doing their thing, and if you look at the ironically similar times, typically the fire attack was getting to it before we were able to get the holes in the roof. On our best days, right? If the hose line went like it was supposed to, engine generally gonna get there first, there's more of them. And if they didn't, hopefully weren't cutting holes in the roof. But those timings just nearly work out almost right in most cases. Even if it's a two-story, they gotta stretch up, I gotta get a longer ladder, I got a longer climb, they got a longer walk. The two times actually coincide pretty well. When it doesn't go well is when I have a mass failure, or a kinked hose line, or a truck that didn't go in gear, or whatever that is, that water doesn't get there. So I can take the lid off of it, but if I don't put water on it, it don't get better.
Right.
UL proved that. Fortunately, I didn't see that a lot because I was with very competent engine companies all along. But the door open and the vent happening, yeah, it makes it pretty, right? It'll burn off, but without a water application, we're not gonna put the fires out. So that's the reason we had great success, because engine companies were doing pretty much what they're supposed to do to begin with, blowing water. All right, so this is a surprise to us. I didn't expect to see it. It was a surprise to me. All right, so this is bilateral. This is bidirectional. It's drawing air here. It's exhausting there. My fire was over here, right? Look at that
Long
roof
ways
line
to it.
over there pushing through it. You gonna put anybody on that?
No.
No, because that's compromised, and it's weird. It just don't quite hold true.
Well, it's one by slats too. So it's one by slats,
Right,
you know,
right.
it's not like OSB. It's an older building.
Yep.
So it's not, the roof's not weak. It's actually, if I were gonna, of houses with vinyl and, I mean, that would be one that, not necessarily you wanna be on, but it's in good shape from this perspective.
Yeah, it's still leaking through the place.
It's leaking.
You don't normally see a tongue and
No.
groove roof leak, and this too.
Well, and it could be rough cut.
Oh,
It's old enough where it
absolutely.
could be
may not
rough
tongue
cut
groove at all.
and it have, cause that's when you'd see that.
All right, another little clue for us too. This hose line moving in there. So if I come up here and I see a coupling right there, do I feel pretty good about it? Do I feel better about it if the coupling's at the front door? So that might mean they got a fair amount of hose in there. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So we can use those things to judge for. All right, that scenario I told you about Leo Street, when should I have broken that window? Or when should my engineer broken that window? on Leo, when I told you that was my first act on my walk around, right? I broke the window out when I went around.
And then you had to get back. And
I had to get back and I went in there. When should we have broken that? That window, I think today, I would recommend breaking that window in that fire room, in a perfect world.
Yeah, we have
Right,
those-
whenever they should have gotten water on it.
That,
Right.
the line was a little bit delayed because we took fire attack
Right.
when we got there. We got down in that hallway and I got down with the guys and you were in there and you were hitting the stairwell or
You went to
whatever.
all the guys.
Yeah, we were gonna let it in the attic. That's how hot it was in that hallway.
I was gonna pull
And,
something to give it to Addie.
I got
That's all
down
right.
to the guys on
That's
the
all
line
right.
and I said, where is it? And they were like, they were trying to find it because
Yeah.
it was so dark and black in there.
Right.
They finally threw a little bit of water, which is what they should have done, and then the embers fell down, and then you could see to the left. That hole, I've never seen one open up better than that. They opened it up, and it lifted out of there. I mean, it was beautiful, the way it lifted out of there. Plus, it took all that heat off of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was.
They crawled by the fire.
But yeah,
When it was a
hit
weird
that-
layout, I mean, the back bedroom, but they crawled by it. It held you down there.
Right.
Yeah, it sucked you into that. There was a bedroom off the back of the hall, and they crawled into that one, and it was a bedroom to the left.
So that window, if it had stayed closed, it would have made things better.
Yeah.
But my engineer, if I were on a ladder truck today, I would want that window broken when that hose line had time to get to that fire.
Right.
And that ain't necessarily, like I said, are y'all on the fire yet? That might be you look to where that coupling placement is. If they got enough hose in that house, and I figured that they went to the, like, you know, you look at the arch in it, then they went down the hallway, they probably went to the fire room. You can break that one out. Remember, I got about a 2-minute window in there.
Right.
Is that a fair statement?
If you see a
There is
little
no
bit of
right and wrong.
smoke conversion too, I mean, you know then.
Yeah,
Take
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, but the short answer to that, the general answer, is I want that window taken in the fire room if I choose when the water's ready to be applied to it.
Right.
Okay? It would have made that whole incident different than it was. I heard another term shortly thereafter, centering yourself in your gear. Everybody, you understand what that is? Centering yourself in your gear. That's when you're sitting there and you're trying to get it from touching you anymore, trying to get in the middle of it. All right? That was the call that I recalled. I was centering myself in my gear. I went back out in the hallway and it was eating me alive. All right, so are we okay with applying water here if I got a crew inside? I mean, even if it were out one of these other windows. A little
Pull it
coordination.
off.
Hey, we're gonna hit it for a second through the window. Okay? Am I gonna improve that condition for it? We'll talk about that here a little bit more in a minute. How about this? If I cut a hole here, what would it do for this event? Help it or hurt it? Water hose line's in there. All
Well-
right, let me go back to this scenario. Code requires, let's just say the code requires all structures to be retrofitted for a vent hole to be put in the roof with a pull chain attachment so that the fire department can pull the chain when they see fit. Okay, it's already in there. Truck companies are out of business. We only search, you know, they take whatever. Take chainsaws off of them. But you pull that latch. Would you pull the latch? Would you pull the hatch? Now, somebody said it'd make it worse. It would make it worse if what? If we didn't do
Didn't
water.
have water.
If we didn't
Water.
allow water.
And that, I think you gotta watch for that smoke, I mean, from the, standing on the outside, I'm looking to see if the smoke changes a little bit.
Right.
Even if it's just a little bit.
Absolutely.
There's something happening.
I think what they did right there was probably the best thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
what
certain,
they did right there.
I'm certain in this scenario, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
The
Now,
guy was telling at the beginning, he was trying to get,
yeah,
fire's over here.
fire's over there.
Open that door.
But what did we do? We went to the front door so many times, like I said, I didn't see a 360. I'm not beating him up, but it's unacceptable for us not to do them. Look here.
But early on, you know, when you first popped up, the smoke on this side was about the same as it was over here. It was under
Was,
pressure in the gable end facing the road,
Yep.
and
Yep.
do what we normally do.
All right,
Brady Bunch.
so what do we see? What do you not see? I don't have smoke coming out of the door. I don't have smoke pushing out of the window. Where is it at?
Right to the left.
It's in the rear.
It's in the roof. Fair statement? Do I have any indication to tell me that the fire is inside of the house? How did it get to the roof? How did it get there? What's the scenario?
Run up the
All
back.
right, there's smoke on the backside, and where we paused, it's hard to tell, but there's heavier smoke on the backside than what I see here.
A grill.
How did it get to that roof?
A grill against the side of the house up into the eaves.
What?
A grill in the back of the house up into the
Okay,
eaves.
so the deck on the back of the house, grill was set up against it, the vinyl side and run up, and it melted the vinyl side out, and it drew it where God intended it, right up to the attic. Is that a fair statement? What did we have last, essentially,
Same.
yeah, now, that one had a
Well, we
probably
did-
12 by 16 vinyl ceiling is what I think. So when the deck was on fire, it was it went into the vinyl ceiling mounted out, went straight to the attic of a very complex roof. But essentially the same thing. Most big houses that not just us, the county's burnt, when you hear there's fire on the backside, I can just about, if it's a nice newer neighborhood, anything post 1980, it's almost always goes to the attic. So,
Phil Rash was saying it's more about ours, and I'm going to get into ours, but one thing he brought up was, there was a roof over the deck,
yes,
and that was tied into the rest of the roof, and so as soon as that caught on fire, it just ran it,
Yep.
probably ended up into that.
yeah.
So,
Went to the highest points from there, wherever it could go. Plenty of fuel load.
It went to all of them too. Every high point.
Lots of them.
Every
Lots
one
of
of
different high points. All right, is that a plausible, is my scenario plausible that it's on the backside? How do I determine that? How do I determine it?
Walk
A
around.
360. Yeah. How do I not determine it? What if we get out and we go right through the front door? It's gonna be, the clock is ticking, baby. It's gonna be burning the roof off of it before long. All right, so they proceed to the roof and cut a hole in it. Where are you gonna cut that hole? Stop me when you tell me where you want the hole.
Keep going.
All right,
going.
so over the garage here.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
All right,
Keep going. Right
Yeah,
there.
right.
How about right in there?
Yeah, right there.
In a perfect world. They cut one right here.
Over the garage.
Uh-huh.
There you
And
go.
then they cut another one over here. Okay, and I'm not passing judgment on them. Sometimes you're gonna do your best. You're gonna make part of what it is. It actually like kind of burnt through right about right there at one point. Plywood on this roof.
Probably.
I thought the same
Or
thing. It's
OSB.
actually one by Tongue Group. House a little
Good.
older than I thought it was. So, I thought this. I'm glad you said it because I thought the same when I looked at it.
There's that 70 to 74 window in there where they're having issues with plywood delaminating. And they started switching back and forth. Chief Combs, you may know more about that. Yeah, there's this whole period, this whole period in the early 70s where it was just bad plywood, and it would separate and delaminate when it got heated, just by summer heat. And it would cause the roof to be spongy. And so there were some construction years in there where they'd go in and start using one buys to bridge that gap. And so you get some, and that's something like for trucks to know about, because there's some like 3-tab shingle roofs out there now that if you walk on it, you would swear it was on fire underneath because it's so spongy. And it's all delaminated plywood and you could fall through it with it not even having fire underneath. So.
All right, so see where this one, I think this actually inspired them to go to the right.
Put 'em right
Since I watched read the end of the book first, I mean, the left would have been a better option for them because not much comes out when they cut this one. Let's go to the slide. All right,
That's a bad one.
right here. Is this 100% discharge the best we can tell? Okay, so what does that tell me? What does that tell me?
here. Intake somewhere.
Intake is where?
Somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Yeah, somewhere else.
All right, this door is open. This door to this Jeep is open. But it is 100% discharge here, so at least that door's open. It's gaining air somewhere other than that. This is actually a fatality.
You went back in there.
Huh?
You went back in there.
Well, I don't know, but it's plausible. This is one of the older videos that I have, but like I said, just some
I
of
think I've seen
the
that.
comments is on there. Is it a basement house?
Could be as long as
Could
it's
be,
like
it looks like it
sloped
drops
off
off in the
behind
It
back.
does look pretty steep here. Okay, so, you know, maybe. 360's gonna tell me what that is. How about my vent hole in the roof here? We're gonna put a crew up there and cut a hole?
Nope.
Why not?
12-12,
12 pitch, that makes it a challenge, right?
it's probably floored,
It's still on the
can't
first
get to
floor.
it with a ladder, aerial,
Right.
difficult.
What else? Is the fire, is it gonna lend to this fire?
Fire's on the first floor.
Yeah, fire's on Division 1, I cut a hole in the roof. Unless you've got a good plan of how that's gonna work for you. There, I can come up with some, but my reality is this is not a good candidate for that. How about VES? I don't know, I don't wanna run off in this road a whole lot. What am I wanna do with VES? I wanna get to a victim in a room as quick as I can, right? That's the principle.
Do you have any information about?
If I'm trying to get to this room, is it gonna be, all I want to do is just, you think about this, I'm not a VES expert. But am I gonna get there quicker right through here, or throwing the ladder, breaking the window, closing the door? I mean, can I go through the interior to get to that potentially?
Then it's not a huge house, so.
Just based on what I see, you know what I'm saying? I don't,
Yeah.
Not a huge.
Based on what you see,
It's probably a center stairwell,
you
That's
go
what I'm
interior.
thinking.
right, center
Yeah.
stairwell straight ahead.
The door's already
Right.
open, you're
Now-
gonna create another hole if you open up the window.
Right. Can't get the door shut, there's something in it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever those are, as long as you make a conscious decision, that, I can live with that. But understand, that's the same reason is we're like, we don't cut holes in all roofs, we don't VES every house, you know, that sort of thing, principle. So that's just a point of discussion. All right, where's your first water go?
right there.
Right now,
Yeah, on the outside.
In here?
Yeah,
Okay.
knock it down,
Right.
reset it.
And that hasn't always been that way, right? So
doors there, windows there, Delta too.
I like to tell the story, Park Avenue, kind of a Victorian style house. Many years ago at 7, Cap Bob was captain on the engine. Woody Parrish was my captain, the squad boys were there. And we pull up, this guy'd set multiple fires. He's unclothed upstairs with a 20 gauge shotgun where he struck the primer. We don't know if he's trying to kill us or kill him, but nonetheless, he was knocked out from the smoke where all the fires he'd set. Allegedly he'd set. So it's multiple fires. So we got fire showing out of a window, kind of like that, a smaller window. It's on the Bravo side, right at the the Delta side, right next to the A side on it. There's 2 painters next door, okay? So they're standing out there, and they're pointing at that fire. Bring your hose right here. Hit it right here. What'd we do?
Go to the front door.
Bob Smith said, we're going inside. The guy said, he's going inside. He couldn't believe it. Who knew? Who knew? A painter.
Right.
Now I'm telling them what the painters did. Hit it right here, boys.
Yes.
I should have went back on Park Avenue and see if I had those painters say, hey, we've been doing it wrong all this time. I'll never forget Bob said, yeah, we're going inside. Going inside. Couldn't believe it. The painter was ahead of the curve. All right, but that's only going to be for a second. You're going to get in there. So how am I going to ventilate this after this? What's my thought?
Fan.
You might be going to that.
Fan?
Going to that.
Fan?
Much later.
We're going to monitor it, right? But this is a good candidate for some horizontal. Really don't have a whole lot of other option. How about this change right here? We may be able to cut this hole in the roof after all in a little bit, okay? It's not their fault. They're not there yet.
Yep. That vinyl something, boy.
I thought it was there, when we were picking up there.
Might be a candidate for that VES we were talking about earlier by the time things get to that point. That's the other thing too with that size up. We're making that prediction of where is it at and where is it going and where is it going to be by the time it takes me to get whatever that is. That is hose line, that is search and rescue or vent. All right, we have any apartments that look like this in Greensboro?
Just a couple.
Okay, we ever have any fires in them?
No.
All right, go ahead and play this back. Do we generally keep them to the room of origin? Okay. Why?
Room or apartment of.
Yeah.
Okay, apartments. Are they big? Large urban floor plans?
Construction.
Oh, we
Construction. They actually
Yeah.
hold pretty
Hold
good,
it.
don't they? I mean, all of us that's been in there, they generally hold it pretty good. They're constructed well.
We haven't had any get to the attics of many of them yet, though.
Huh?
And we haven't had many get to the attics.
Right.
Right.
How about the contents? Is there lots of contents in those rooms typically? Combustible content? I mean, they don't have lots of huge furnishings and things like that. You know, lots of combustible there. It didn't look like that bedroom I was standing in that I could play basketball the other day. All right, so he does a 360. You see a little bit of smoke leaking out here. Cameraman must be on the side of his helmet. Room and contents, maybe?
Right now.
All right, did we want to leave that door open
Mm.
for the front door? Okay. Not that the hose line's ready to go in it? Rate of change, have we seen a lot of change in the time we've been here?
It's still light,
Like,
not
Yeah.
under pressure.
All right, it's pushing through a closed window. But is it kind of lazy after it gets out of it?
yeah.
So it's not, that means it's not super hot maybe, okay? So it's kind of leaking out, like volume push, like it filled the box and it starts to leak out of it. All right, so the hose line's going in. He's set up right here that he can break this window. When do you want it broken?
Somebody's up there ready to.
Okay. Right,
With the hose.
right.
Charged.
Can he make that prediction by watching that hose line move a little bit? If we go back to the end, so why'd you break it down? He said, well, I saw him take the hose line in about 20 feet. They should have been there. Fair, I mean, I'm gonna give him that, right? So he's gonna clean that window out whenever it's coordinated, or they can say we're on the fire.
All right, listen, when you get a warning.
True.
I got no problem with people talking to each other about it too.
No, I don't like it. But a lot of times you just get in there and they don't talk to each other. And that's okay, as long as they got a plan.
Taking a nap.
He's taking a nap.
Cradle in the window.
Like the one we ran.
All right, that's 100% discharge, let's say. I think there's probably a dresser or something, the way things look blocking this one, but that's 100% discharge. Good job by them, I think. Guy gets up there, breaks some window, he could have done that with a 12-foot hook in the ground if he wanted to, or 10 foot.
But he couldn't have cleared it. That's the issue.
Well, not as good as he is by there.
That's what I meant, get it out of the way and,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
really clear.
sure. Bad up against you, thing. All right, so the hose line's in
Don't
here,
like
this is
that.
100% intake, that's 100% discharge. The other thing too is they close their bedroom doors a little more than everybody else, right? In apartments like that. Oftentimes they don't want anybody else, you know what I'm saying? That's their private area, and they may be staying with somebody that they don't want. I mean, I'm just telling you, my experience with it is, you know, open floor plan, a lot of them just do keep their doors closed probably for their own privacy.
You know, it surprises me how many educated people don't keep the doors closed.
Right.
Bedroom doors. Or the kids.
Drop them here on over
What are you gonna do for ventilation? Is it gonna get a hole in the roof?
Oh, man, that thing.
All right.
Electric.
Yeah.
But PPV nonetheless, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna force air into it, right? How long are we gonna be on the scene?
The engine?
Although it is spreading. Are they knocking that out?
Yeah, they broke this one out the inside. Why didn't he raise it?
Is that air
It's
conditioning?
It was already raised, you know, he
Yeah.
probably can't get to that other one. I hope we don't have more fun, but yes, it is more fun. I hope that's not
Smoke
on record.
got lessened right before the camera moved.
All right. So I made the comment the other day, I was like, well, we could have probably left this one out, this is just a little bit, but comment was made back to me, sometimes this is one of the better ones. Because these are the fires you're gonna roll up on, and we're making sure that we're not doing anything stupid to say, hey, I'm gonna cut a hole in the roof of this thing. Or, you know, and it was certainly a coordinated attack, probably the best one you'll see of any of the videos we got out there. There's two guys, I'd say they worked together before, you know, those companies.
Yeah.
They had a plan.
They probably had a few of these in those units.
Could be.
Or something
Yeah,
similar.
Fire station. The neighbors didn't seem to be excited. It didn't look like anything new to them. I mean, you know, the ones standing outside, they weren't even looking at them. You know, it was just like
Right.
business as usual, so it might happen.
Oh, you got it.
All right, so that smoke that we saw emitting a while ago is very similar to the smoke we see here, right? I could draw parallels there, right?
Yes.
Very similar. I can see through it. It's kind of like brownish gray in color. Different event.
Yes.
Different size.
For size.
Yeah. Okay,
Different type of.
so car four is 1023. Got a one-story commercial structure, light smoke showing. I'll be a semi-command in a what mode?
Transition.
Investigating right now, because you gotta find out where the.
Okay,
smoke's
so I
coming
had
from.
3 different answers.
You
None
know
of
you've
which are
got-
wrong.
You know you've got fire.
You know you got fired.
You have no reason at this point to go defensive. There's no, you know, and you do have to investigate, but you're still in offensive mode. And you're going to, even if it's where the water can, you're still in offensive mode.
And I'm not, there is no wrong answer, but I always hesitate, and I'm probably gonna default a lot of times, like you did, to offensive, but I want them to wait, right? I need more information. I need to see what it does when I open it up, and whenever I check the box with offensive, if I miss something, I've given them permission. That's just where I'll worry about a little bit. And it's certainly not wrong, and I think my majority would go with that. We have a marginal load. We don't have traditional in our books, but I understand what that means. Transitional.
Yeah.
Is that in there now? We got that in there?
It's not,
It's
that's
more
what
not
they-
marginal.
Marginal.
Around
Marginal.
the flow path,
Okay.
beginnings, they started, like, Charlotte uses transitional
Right,
instead of
yeah.
original, just because
Sure.
it's not necessarily going from defensive or offensive to defensive, it could be going
From one to the
defensive
other, right.
offensive.
Yeah.
That's kind of marginal.
Sure,
Like, I'm
right.
just-
But
I can go one way.
We all
I can
agree,
go in.
and like I said, I trapped you on it. I knew kind of where this was going. But we all agree we need more information before I'm going to commit companies in here. Fair statement?
Oh, yeah.
When am I going to get that information?
In just a second when you go that way.
Inside.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much along here. It could be burning just on the back side of this
Yeah, there's a little
OSB
bit-
for all we know.
There's a little bit more to the left
A
on
little
that.
bit more left? Okay.
When you go back,
Yeah, that definitely-
from the back too. That's a whole lot of smoke in a big,
That is a big deal.
Is it fast?
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it's
it's buildings.
fast. It's getting with it pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right. Is this an occupied building?
Doesn't, well,
It's
it's
not,
got
it
plywood
doesn't
and
look
stuff
like it's
on it.
operational,
Okay.
but it
I
could
would
be,
say
still be occupied.
May not be completely vacant,
Right.
but it is not occupied for the purpose of what it was intended to.
Well, from this
When those
side.
boards were put
Not
up,
business.
They
Hey,
ain't
not
supposed to be
from this
done like
side, but on the opposite side, it could have 3 roll-up doors and be used as a chop shop,
true.
because there's
Good.
about 100 of them over there
Yeah.
on that side.
fair statement. All right, so they're opening this thing up. Do you want anybody in there now?
Mm.
Hmm. Pretty nasty smoke out that backside, turning.
We still don't have much indication exactly where it's at.
I was gonna say,
Exactly, that's how I
Pretty
want
equal
it.
from one side to the other.
yeah, it's like,
I mean, you just don't know.
All right.
you gotta figure out where it is.
Wearing them phone lines up.
You put somebody on the roof? How about a visual to the roof? Anybody want a visual to the roof?
I do.
I would like,
Okay.
yeah, even thermal imagery.
And you can tell them that, say, I want a visual to the roof, don't get off on it. Like, we can make that decision. And then I gain clues. All right, do we feel like we, you see any sags in it, this thing look good, what's thermal imagery telling you? All right, you're gathering some of that information before I give them permission to bounce off on.
And go back to your other point of, if is truly vacant, that it could be rotten in the middle and not have any roof. I
Absolutely.
mean,
Well, it looks like.
but it's
They
got
cut-
something because
they
it's keeping
cut
the
that
smoke
hole.
in.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Right.
so they cut it. All right, your battalion chiefs are acting battalion chiefs today. What are you gonna tell your companies right now?
Get off the roof.
Set up deck guns in every opening you can.
Huh?
I said, get off the roof and set up deck guns in every opening that you can.
Okay, so we're defensive.
Correct.
Right? So when I'm off, I want them off the roof. I mean, I'm on, here's the thing, look at the building as a whole. We look at this as a whole, what am I saving? All right, it was a homeless camp in the one corner of it. Are they alive?
No.
Absolutely
not.
not. I mean, just based on, we'll just go, my theory in this one is no, there is no survivable victims. I've got crews on the roof and I like doing it. I'd love to be standing up there, but I'm gonna call them off, all right? Because what am I gonna do with it? All right, so if I pull you off of the roof, what have I gotta do to crews inside?
Pull them out.
Okay, why?
They shouldn't have.
'Cause if they can't be on the roof, they don't want to be under it.
Right, if you can't be on it, they can't be on it. Especially on flat roofs. I mean, there's some scenarios in some pitched roofs that that's not the case. apartment complexes. The largest area inside of that thing, it may be 130 feet long and 30 feet deep, but it's got partition walls that's gonna protect those companies
Right.
from the inside. We were never in danger the other night with a very complex roof system because they were protected in smaller rooms and compartments that were in there. Flat roof, that's not the case. Flat roof, we could have a kabloom in that thing. I could pull you off the roof, but I can't leave the company. So and you look at that from a large commercial standpoint, if they can't be on it, they can't be under it. Okay, and it's real easy to pull those guys off that we could see, and real easy to leave those guys in that we can't see. Okay, and I think that baits us, the fire service in general, from that scenario.
What's going on with those, what's going on with those, bolts on the side there? Yeah. Could
They
you
look
tell?
like they were add-on, that they were probably pulling that outside wall in.
That's what
You
it
know,
looked like, but I didn't know what.
Yeah,
it's
the
kinda
old
odd to see
stars, the
that.
tie rods and all that stuff.
But it's just high. It's just a little bit higher
It
than I,
is.
compared to the way it looked as far as where they were working, it just seemed to be high. That just, it was
Right.
odd.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's something meant to brace that thing up. Let's take a break. You want to take a break? You need one?
You're on.
We on? All right, that says thrift store. What's in there, Bernie?
Anything.
Crap.
Yeah. Treasures. So in the back, they got lawnmowers and weed eaters, snow skis, knickknacks, clothes. If it's in a house or an outbuilding, it's in that building, right? Is this alarming to anybody?
Yeah, should be.
Not our everyday, right? Okay. Look off on the back side of it. All right, we tell them we want a 360. How long is it going to take them to do a 360 on this one? All right, he gonna be out of wind by the time he gets out of there. Who's best suited to do a 360?
Car.
The car. Okay, so we can ride around. So I got the 360. All right. We'll say that this thing's 120 feet long. All. Yeah, let's call it 40 feet wide. Is that a truss roof? Probably a trussed roof. Okay, this is a flat roof added on the side. Look at this pushing through here, back there. So has it got continuity from here all the way to the back side of this building probably?
Yeah.
All right, so if I open this door, what's my prediction? Is it all in the attic or what am I gonna see?
I think it's up in the attic now. We probably started in the back and moved on
You
to
got more.
What's she
it's
carrying?
Say,
She's got the cash register.
Oh,
Most valuable thing in that store, okay? So they have surrendered, they have taken the cash register. Is it occupied or unoccupied?
hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
But you can't guarantee it.
Can't guarantee it. And this come up in one of these classes, and I wanted to point it out. And we talked about it in big box stuff before. And like I said, I want to point it out. Residential, do we assume that they're occupied? Okay, so when I'm riding to that call, I'm assuming that that is an unoccupied building. If they're telling me it's on fire, I mean, an occupied building, that house. I want it all clear. In my mind, and a large percentage of the time, let's say 99% of the time, or 95% of the time, I'm expecting to hear an all clear that we did. Conversely, a commercial structure, if they say there's heavy smoke showing on it, am I considering it? Am I expecting an all clear on that one? Am I going to assign companies? In a short, should I assume unoccupied and go to occupied? Does that make sense to you? Who winds up in a commercial structure that's open for business that can't get themselves out? Is it rare? It's probably pretty rare. We have one exception I can think of is when they burnt the pawn shop on South Eugene Street. He opened business presumably and went in to try to fight the fire that he discovered is what there. That is a rare occurrence. Most commercial structures, they're going to get out, okay? Because they're not asleep. All those type of things that catch us on the other ones, generally speaking. So my point is I'm going to assume unoccupied, just as I do residential occupied.
Was a sofa warehouse, I think.
Assume is maybe the wrong word.
Yeah, the Charleston, that was one trapped in the back
That was
office.
an extremely unusual circumstance.
Yeah.
Now, they would not have traded 9 firefighters for that one. They didn't.
Right.
Matter of fact, they didn't. They were fighting the fire. This guy happens, his phone never works, and it happens to go, I say never, but generally he did not have phone service in his work area. He calls in, says, hey, I can't get out of this little workshop, tells him where he's at, and the guy said normally the guy didn't have phone service. It's like the chief's bedroom at Station 18. No phone service. But that was a rarity that was out there. Matter of fact, they chopped the hole in the metal and got that guy out. Miracle that happened, but it is a rarity. But I'm going to default to it's probably not occupied. Does anybody want to let their companies go in here and do a blind search? How is 2 ways I would allow them into this building? On a hose line? Or on a what? A rope. Any other way?
Rope ain't good.
No. I mean, you can't squeeze water out of a rope. I mean, but if it's in there for that purpose, I want them to maintain that contact with something. How are the aisles laid out in here?
Don't
It's
know.
a hodgepodge. You don't know. You're going to get lost in it. How about that search with a thermal imager? Like I said, when they go to the front door and they're going to hit it high, low, in the middle, and then they're going to make that determination before we do a blind search. What's your hose selection? 1 1/9, 3/4, or 2.5? Minimum 2.5. Same way. I want my companies to default to 2.5. It's commercial, 2.5, residential 1 3/4 by default. When they pull up and they got a McMansion and they pull a 2.5, to the backside for the exterior tack, I got it. But I also do realize because of some studies and because I'm not real smart and I had to test it myself, it takes 8 foot. That's an 8 foot area to turn a 2.5 without kinking to put it in a circle, 8 foot across before it kinks it in 2. So, that's the reason it doesn't play well going in a house. Even the guys that can pull it and do all that stuff really well, those radiuses really kind of bind you up on it, and your widest hallway's 3 feet. All right, so is this thing progressing on me on the backside?
Yes.
We really haven't opened the front door yet. I'm guessing, this is a rural area. Don't know much about it. It is several years old. I saw this video many years ago. There's 3 parts to it. So I just chose the one. Can you skip by?
Hold on a minute. Oh, I'm watching.
Truck in the way.
All right. Well, vertical ventilation helped this. Will it help us tell the story? What's a good option for here? I got a nice open parking lot. Can I vent from the basket and stay safe? Is this a collapse hazard, this building? Truss roof is my guess. I'm just telling you that. I don't know. But I'm making that speculations it could be. It's a 40-foot span, and it's been burning for quite some time. Bottom cords might be compromised. We have really good success on trussed roofs because most of the time I have interiors on houses that have other walls and divided areas and sheetrock and things like that that don't allow that thing to have a complete collapse. Whereas if conversely, if I put it over the bonus room or the garage, my collapse hazard is up higher. So they basically vent from the basket or step right out of the basket onto the roof to vent it. Where are you going to vent it at? Chief Key, where are you going to vent it? You were asking us earlier, so what do you want
So
to do?
you think I know? Well, it looks like the smoke in the rear has kind of died down.
It did,
a lot,
and I don't know why.
I mean,
They may be flowing water.
based on what my 2 ladder people here are saying, you guys are saying more to the middle.
Where they go?
Yeah.
Of course, along the closest to the ridge line.
Yeah, so they're right. High on the roof, always high on the roof. But they're gonna cut a hole right here. That's not anywhere that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I applaud the fact they got the aerial over there, they got this thing up, they get a hole in this thing.
Yeah.
But it would have been a whole lot more suited, no more than we know about it, to have cut it back here in the middle, and I'm gonna draw it to the middle, okay? It's favoring the backside a little bit, but it's still a lot of fire in here. The fan's sitting there in the door. As far as I know, there's no hose line in here, and they may be attacking this fire from the backside. I do know that they made entry into the backside, but it seems to me that guy's helmet cam only carried us like 10 feet in, and they weren't flowing water.
Turn white back here on the opposite side.
All right, so if I take a 2.5 inch here, and we're imagining this structure is gonna have a storage room in the back of it, maybe the back third of the building, because it's a thrift store where they may come in and process stuff, right? They got workers back there or whatever. Is the 2.5 gonna wash pretty much anything on the first floor? I mean, on the showroom floor back there, right from inside of the door? Theoretically, yeah, I can take that 2.5 and I can hit a lot of that that's in there. All right, so, like I said, he did walk off on that roof. We have, you know, mechanisms in place that we can actually have him step out on the basket or hang out there a little bit, stay off of that one. But he cuts this hole really up here. I don't know. Well, she's also using a circular saw, which would have made it very difficult to vent from the basket on it. All right.
And it's slow.
I think that's what
Makes
I'm
it
saying.
work. Use the video.
All right. It's getting rid of a lot of heat out there. It's very fast moving, right? We haven't done anything to act on it here. Got a fan in here and it's starting to overrun and push smoke out of here. So I'll probably have smoke on that floor. Are we offensive or defensive right now?
Appears they're off.
Okay. Do you want to be offensive or defensive?
I think you need to be offensive.
Okay. How deep are you comfortable having companies in here?
Why?
I suggest going up in, maybe just squirt it, just.
Are we gonna win?
No.
No.
They're gonna push it over, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I do know, because the next video, this wall collapses to about right here. So whenever this gives up, it falls out, pushes the walls out, this thing falls pretty shortly thereafter. Now, there was a point in time, it's okay, you can leave it. There was a point in time that one was, seemed it was a little more promising to us than it was to the end. Once again, that fire had been burning for quite some time. The biggest concern in Incident Command was evacuating the daycare next door from the smoke that they were putting in the daycare. So, valid point. So, let's see, I want to talk about that. So if I go in there and we go to that last one that we just had, and we flow water on it and it was high heat in there, let's just say we had a thermal layer and there was smoke down, if it was let's say it was a 10-foot ceiling in there, and I drop it about 3 foot from the ceiling, it's up, it's about buoyant, and I flow water on it, what do I expect that smoke inside of that building to do?
Drop.
Drop. Why?
What do you cool it?
I cooled it, okay? If I take a cubic foot of water and I boil it to steam, how many cubic feet of steam do I have? 1,700.
Yeah.
Close enough. All right, 1,700. So what that did is that filled that same space and it drops that stuff to your feet as you expand that. Is that a problem for us? It's not hot anymore, right? Is it a problem for us?
Getting it out.
Right, getting it out.
Visibility.
Right, so I cut a hole in the roof and we've cooled it off, that's all good, I got low visibility. What about the toxic stuff that was in the gas, the reason I wore the air pack in there to begin with? Is it now around my ankles, is it throughout? The same stuff that will kill me, the carbon monoxide and all the benzenes and all that other stuff that want to take my life, is it still in it? And instead of being pinned up there and fresh air down here, now I've dropped it to my ankles. All right, so it's cold smoke. Cold smoke becomes a problem too because I cut a vent hole and it won't rise out of it. And it baits us. Okay, it allows us to stay in an environment that heated smoke doesn't allow us, because we know that we have a limited time, because one, it makes us tired and hot, and it doesn't make us want to stay around in there. So we'll stay around in there sometime, and the next thing they're banging, and then we got to get out. So we got to think about how we're going to ventilate those. That 16-inch fan that's moving about 1,600 cubic feet per minute or whatever, I might be wrong on that one, but not a lot of air into a very large structure is probably not going to solve that problem. But we got to think about what those compensations are. When we see cold smoke, we don't need to let our guard down from the incident command standpoint is, I need to maintain, approach with these people, let's back out till we let some of this clear and start thinking about that. Pineville Fire Department's firefighter fatality. Anybody remember that kid's name? Richard Shelter, 20 years old. They go into, it was a lightning strike on an apartment complex. On an apartment complex, on a strip mall, middle of the road. It was a golf shop, Ed something's. So it was a golf shop in there. And just imagine it being that second unit with the gable peak on it. Small unit, maybe 40 foot wide, 70, 80 feet long. Fire showing out of the back of it. Pineville is a suburb, so to speak, of Charlotte. Matter of fact, they had some Charlotte units on the first alarm. So I got fire showing after a thunderstorm one evening, 10, 11 o'clock at night. He's volunteered, kids slated to get on the Charlotte Fire Department, and in there with another guy that's a rookie. The details don't matter in one aspect and they do another. He's got some seasoned officers on the line. They make it to the back. They say they have some heat in the back to this thing, so they're flowing water, but they got zero visibility. They attempted to cut a hole in the roof. It was a built-up roof where they had done some reconstruction on it. They didn't get effective ventilation. He starts banging on the alarm. They send him out. 2 of them, and they go out separately, as I recall. It's not about me telling you this correctly, okay? So don't check all the facts. It's just make sure we don't make similar mistakes. So send the kid out. He gets tangled up and turned around and winds back up to that crew. They send him out again, and he doesn't get out. So we don't want to be in that same environment. He was basically perished in a cold smoke environment.
Engine 61, ladder 10, car 2, car 33, respond. 3308 Rehoboth Church Road, Unit P, call. Crossbreach of Pearl Drive and Orlando Street on a structure fire.
Come on.
Not enough notes yet.
So that particular one, that when we went to the funeral, he was, that young man was a good friend of my daughter's, oddly enough, in this separation. They had a mutual friend, and he'd been to our house, he'd been to a lot of stuff out there, or around. They were friends, so we went to the funeral, and we went to the fire afterwards. I could still read the decals on the shirts in the store. Okay, it was that minimal damage to it. The hose line, like I said, went through the front of it like 90% of the time we would do. If he had went through the back where actually the fire was, it might have had a different outcome. If we'd have been able to get good ventilation, probably had a different outcome. But the reason I bring that story up is Richard Shelter's in the past, but from Tim's standpoint, I want to make sure that we don't go through those same type things. It was a ventilation issue because water was on the fire as best they could. So we had an issue in a compound of issues that went along with it, but we need to think about how some of that stuff works for it and what they could have done. Would positive pressure solved it? Probably not, entirely. But we just need to think about how some of those things work. And I'll be honest, sometimes I feel like, if we had knowledge and we didn't share some of that stuff, if we might be able to make a difference in that when nobody will ever be able to talk about those things. So I feel like I own part of that. From Pineville, Greenville, or Climax, or wherever you want to talk about it. All right, so strip mall, one thing I want you to think about on these two is pressurization of the adjacent units, okay? So what pressurization might look like if this is the nail salon that's on fire and this is the Chinese restaurant, I don't know, and I set a fan at this door, how would I maintain pressure in that unit, and why would I want to do that?
No vent opening.
What?
No vent opening.
No vent opening. Everything's closed up except for where I'm forcing air into it. Now, why do I want to do that?
Keep it.
Positive
keep it-
pressure.
I want to keep a
Compartmentalized.
greater pressure in the adjacent compartment than the fire compartment to keep it from going, because the fires want to go from high pressure to low pressure. It's the same principle why I'm pressurizing a stairwell in a high rise. I want to keep a greater pressure there than I have in the hallway so I can keep that tenable, okay? So that's one of the things I want you to think about. Now, what are we gonna naturally wanna do? Open that door of that other one. Okay, so let's say that case happens. We pressurized it, somebody ill-informed opens the door on the back, and I got flow through there. What's gonna happen then?
Yeah, suck it through.
Yeah, Venturi effect, essentially. It's gonna suck that. It's gonna pull a negative pressure and pull it in there. So you're taking a gamble that everybody's gonna do exactly what everybody's supposed to do, but you have to have clear communications that that's what I want to happen. I want to pressurize the two adjacent units. All right. This one I put it in here. Chief Laszlo brought this one to our classes to talk about. And
Where is it?
this one here, we're not building.
Fire station, Station 8.
Florida Street.
I mean, if you want it,
Yeah, you
it's
get it
because
then.
of just how
It's
we're
one of your
close.
guns.
Yeah. It's yours.
Ladder 11, I'm sorry, you told 271 will be 272.
All right, for this one, it's gonna move fast. So I got some light smoke out of the front door right here. Where's the best place to attack this fire?
Force the back.
The back?
Car 5.
I'm basing off of what I see right
Car
there.
5.
Oh, car 5 bad, car 3.
Car two's gonna get that.
What?
You just got, car two got cleared off that structure fire. He'll probably take it, but
Okay.
that's all right. Okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Well, better disregard that. Clearing from structure fire, probably have any car.
What?
I don't know.
What have you got?
I had a hazmat call.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he was
gas.
in 8 territory and he was gonna pick it up.
Can we get around the building?
No, that's all you got. And it's only lasts a second.
All
Is
this,
this,
What
yeah.
was your question?
Yes,
Where are
we
you
can
gonna
get
tag it? I'm just gonna, I mean, I still say that.
Captain Jones, you pull up on this and you go to the A side. Where's my best attack? What do you think? You want another unit to catch it in the back? Or you want to pull hose through the front door?
I want somebody to see that back.
Okay.
If
I mean, is that's coming through the roof?
I can't tell you. for
Burn up
sure.
the back of it, like.
It looks
Or
like
is
it's
it a
in
car
the-
fire in the
it
back
looks like
parking
it's-
lot?
Yeah, right. It looks, it's the building, okay? It's definitely
It'd
the
be a
building.
tractor trailer
And I
if they
think it's
unload
through
and
the
stop.
roof
I mean,
within the first 10 feet of the back of the building.
But it's coming
My
out the,
guess.
I'm not going,
Disregard
Too much
fire,
going on.
car
Go ahead.
3, mechanical,
oh,
have car 5.
call wood. If I pull up on that and I see that kind of smoke already vented through the roof, I'm not going deep, I'm not going too far in that building, past what I could probably hit just by opening that door, just because I'm looking at air handling units on the roof. If it's vented through the roof, obviously it's compromised. So I'm probably getting an aerial up, and we'll hit it from the top. I mean, I'm not going deep, I'm not going too far in there.
All right. From attack from the back door, let's just say it's burning out the back door and the first, it's vented through the roof in the last 20 feet. Where do you want to attack it from, the back or the front?
The back.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I'm saying, we're gonna respond, that first new unit 90% of the time is going to the front door, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because that's where you always been. But that's where we wanna have that communication is, hey, second new unit go around there. That's one thing on my companies today that we talked about, hey, we'll go to the back.
no, and that, I tell these guys all the time, use the people. They're coming from different directions, use them.
Direct them. The other thing too, through all, and meeting with these battalions was slow down. Slow down. What do you say, get off the, remember his 2 drugs and so that shit. Get off the meth and get on the, whatever you want to do, slow down.
yeah.
All right? So my point being is, and I'll go back to fastest water to the fire, and on a commercial structure, we want to take the minimum hose. I want to expose you for the minimum distance that I have to. If this is the only entrance, that's what we have to do. But what I want you to look at is, I want you to look at your fuel load here, and tell me what you think about your fuel load. See if it matches the structure. That is a nail salon, okay? Is what the smoke's coming out of the front side of that.
Do they keep chemicals in drums in the back? What the crap? They just, or the roof's burning. Boom.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Oh.
They were outside near the flagpole.
That door wasn't open, didn't get opened, did it?
I don't know. He's just leaving, you know.
I'm out.
Volunteer, they say. But the one thing that jumped out to me, and I didn't have the answer for it, but it jumped out to me, is that the fuel load does not look right for the structure. It just, you know what I'm saying? I can see an industrial place burning regardless of that, but that's an impressive. So I don't know if you got a, natural gas line involved or something. Something just doesn't quite, aside from the explosion, it just doesn't quite.
That's your perfect example of reading that smoke, though. You saw that drastic change.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the time you read it, that one was, I've been rolling around with them out there on the ground. I wish it were longer, and I wish we knew more about it.
We're gonna wait since I'm the only one in here?
Yeah, we'll give them.
Hey, can you go back to that last one?
Absolutely.
Just some of the reading I've had in the last little bit, it's talking about roof division.
Cut that thing.
What?
Oh, you don't have to play.
So what are you talking about? Paul?
I can't see.
Not that bad. Session, so yours may not make it on there.
That's okay.
All right.
That's okay.
So this is, what do you know about this house? When was it built? Pre-1950? Pre-1930?
Probably like 1800.
Maybe. And my cutoff was kind of, pre-1950 kind of is a good cutoff for us. Most everything after that is relatively similar for all intents and purposes. Has it got a basement?
Looks like property.
Don't look good.
Maybe. Might have a cellar right there, basement in it. How many units is this thing cut up into?
At least two.
Yeah, I can't tell. I think that's a window because it matches this transom right here. I think that's front door.
No.
High dollar chairs on the end. One air conditioning unit here, one window unit there, one mailbox. All right,
You just destroyed
one
it.
electrical service. So it might just be one house, or it could be cut up in rooms. Okay, does that matter to us? If it's cut up in rooms, is that work more in my favor from the fire standpoint? Smaller compartments and probably locked doors, right? Doesn't work in my favor, and is it might have more occupants and more people in bed and that sort of thing. When are people in bed now? Time of day.
Yes.
All the time of day. Okay, people, you can't go by anything on that. Everybody's home now. Okay, kiddie pool out front. She was out there soaking her feet in it earlier. She's having a big time. Now the house is on fire. I don't think she lives there. I don't know. I didn't ask her. All right, so looking right here, is that bi-directional?
Mhm.
Looks like maybe. That's thick, black, fast moving, bi-directional. This is smoke read. Where's the fire?
Right.
Right there.
Okay, probably right inside of that room. Is this window common to this room too?
I would think so.
Okay, we're making predictions, right? Is the door to that bedroom closed?
Yes, it is.
Could be.
Well, it's pulling air in, so.
Yeah, so it's competing for that space right there. But what if all the other doors are closed? We don't know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't appear to be drawing air. If this door were open and the door to that bedroom would open, would that look different?
Yes.
Right. Okay. It would advance faster, and it would be 100% discharge. This would be 100% intake, and this would be progressing faster. Fair statement? It's amazing what we do. Like I said, science has told me that. I'm not that smart. All right. So if I get up here, the chief's gonna be the first one on the scene. Should he open this door and yell and hey everybody out and leave the door open?
Not leaving the door.
Okay. I agree. He's gonna do a 360. Does a pretty good job of that. Smoke coming out anywhere else really?
Light to the,
Maybe this little whiff of something right here, can't tell exactly. So we'll let it play.
That's an awful lot right there.
Yep. Rate of change, how fast is it changing?
Not a lot.
It's not a lot.
it's like it already flashed, it's backing out.
What?
So it looks like it's already flashed and
Yeah.
not backing down.
Think it's running out of fuel?
I don't know. Or air,
Running out of fuel or air, right? It's limited by something.
something.
So this leaves, probably, that room is probably shut.
Door may be shut, right?
It's burning the contents now, starting to burn the structure.
Picking up a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Is this a good candidate for vertical ventilation?
Yeah.
Uh,
Maybe difficult on that roof.
I miss metal,
Deck gun.
steep.
I don't think it's worth it.
Mhm.
All right. Based on what I'm seeing now, is this, how's this ceiling constructed in here? Plaster and lath maybe? How long do they burn? Long time.
Long time.
Really long time. So I'm not expecting sheetrock, or it may be the beat board ceiling, they burn a pretty long time too, right? They hold it pretty good. It's that half-inch sheetrock made in 1980 that was probably the worst. It's gonna fall off of it, introduce it to the attic. Now, even if I'd loved cutting a hole in this, how difficult is that going to be?
Very.
Very. All right, so do I have any access from here?
Access.
If you had a
I mean,
stick,
inside.
you could do
Stick,
something with it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How about with ground ladders?
It's just really tough because of the
Be
porch.
pretty tough
and,
because of this overhang.
Yeah.
And I don't
Go
wanna tell
for
you
it.
what my plan is, cause y'all think I'm funny or stupid.
What, you gonna ladder from that other, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That flat roof over there, can we borrow your house for a second? I said climb on that porch over there and throw you a 24
I
across.
like it. All right, how about from here? Is that a walkable pitch?
No,
All right, if it's not a walkable pitch, that means I have to use a what? Roof ladder.
roof ladder,
Roof ladder, yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
All right, where am I gonna hook?
not.
Not on that side.
Not on that
I
joker,
don't know.
okay? And whenever it's pouring smoke out of all of this right here and you try to get that roof ladder to hook, been there, done that a little bit, but that's gonna be a problem, right? Cause you got that smoke sometimes here, you can't see that it doesn't have a ridge across that part of it. But I'm still saying we can solve this with horizontal, is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Still one room, hadn't failed, and the attic looks real good on it at this point.
Put some water on
Where's your first water application?
it. Right that window.
Okay, we'll get that reset on it, right? What's happening right here?
Starting to
Water
grow,
over there.
starting to fill up.
Seep out them cracks.
It's finding a way. to-
Wooden window or vinyl window? Is that a replacement window or a wooden window?
It's hard to tell.
It's hard. It looks like it's kind of melting, but yeah, there.
Cheap
It
replacement.
ease down. Them old wooden windows, whenever they fail, they fall down. I don't know, I just, like I said, these are my lives, I just get to tell them. All right,
Doesn't look like they had it that long.
so if I'm pulling 1.75 inches, while it's out here, I'm gonna put my 5 to 7 seconds worth of flow right there. Right? That's what I'm gonna do. Then we're gonna go in. All right, so
What about throwing, guys, while you throwing that 5-second flow, getting masked up, drive and throw a ladder up there, you go up there with that hook on the ladder.
good,
You go right in the room.
good. But if it's made it out in the hallway, then I, you know what I'm saying, I gotta climb over all that stuff. I mean, it wouldn't be my first choice, but it, like I said, I'm not all about not taking the tools out of the toolbox, leave you some options. All right, so if they open this door and leave it open, is that gonna be a problem for them potentially?
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially if that doorway is open here. What about what's happening right there?
Starting to show.
All right. It is building on, this is starting to come down. Still competing for all that space here, trying to, it feels like it's trying to breathe through there. It looks like they left the door shut. They are not gonna apply water from the outside, okay? Why might that be the case? Because They might be famous for hitting it from the unburned side. I mean, we gotta remember, that's relatively new to us as well. There was a time in, that we would talk trash for that and been talk trash too. It's like flowing water on smoke, right? Anybody ever get yelled at for throwing water and smoke?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if my neck's still the same. Kay Pearman, we're in the back, going in the back of house, McAdoo Street, a Tim Boone in front of me, and we're flowing water, and it's hot, and she's standing up and she's ringing my bell. Pow! Shut the nozzle off! Pow! Shut the nozzle off! You see fire? I'm like, he's got the nozzle! She's ringing my head, slapping me in the helmet. Taking them a little while, whatever that is, right? We could have got that reset on it. Now,
They're going in.
they're going in. They're going inside. Okay? Now,
Forgot helmet.
the ventilation standpoint. Am I holding up on ventilation? Am I gonna set my fan here right now?
Oh, you said it, but just don't play it in there.
I can set it right there.
Yeah.
I can set it right there. I can turn it 90 degrees to the door and it can be running at idle. The reason I like idle is because I like to hear. Okay? But nobody knows that fan better or should than the guy that set it up there if it's the engineer on the ladder truck. Does that make sense? Nobody on that scene should know that ladder better than the guy that drove it there on that fire truck. Shouldn't.
Other fan.
Alright? The guys that drove me knew my fan better than anybody. When I drove the fan, I knew the quirks of that fan, that it was sitting there ready to turn into it whenever they called for it. Alright, so how far in here are you projecting they are?
Maybe
To the
stairs.
Up at the
steps.
stairs. Are they having some issues?
Looks so.
Alright, I got a second line.
Y'all ain't no water yet.
Let's just say they do. Alright, I can't tell. I'm gonna say that they're up there, they got the water.
That's-
Are you okay with another company hitting this line, hitting this fire right here,
Not at all.
from the ground?
No problem.
No problem? No problem. I don't have a problem with that. Should I let them know? Was it a courtesy thing? Hey, we're gonna hit it from the wind in a minute, for a minute. Do I ask their permission?
No.
What they gonna tell you? No, we got it.
Yeah.
You know.
Tell them what you're gonna do. Hey, we're fixing to hit it from the ground for just a second. Just be aware. Was that always copacetic? No, that was a bad thing. All right, Asheville, captain's name, Bowen,
Oh, Bowen.
Oh,
Bowen, right?
Bowen. Yeah.
So he's on the fire floor. There was an aerial device with a master stream ready to flow into the fire window. And they said, hey, we're ready to put some water on this fire. Did we let them do it? Did they let them do it? Would we have let them do it? How many years ago? 50?
It's in 2010, right? Or 11. 10 or 11.
Time flies.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I was in here. That's the only reason I know.
Okay, so how many years?
10.
10 years ago. All right, would we let them 10 years ago flow a master stream into an occupied,
No.
by us, building? Would you let them today?
Yes.
Just watch it.
Have we ever drowned any firefighters? Did you know we have any firefighter deaths and drowning? All right, why did we not do it? As we were talking about pushing
Push.
fire, we were talking about, hitting them with that. I mean, I don't want to be hit by a master stream either, but in the grand scheme of things, and that would not have changed the overall outcome of that event. But my point being is that's an easy one to talk about because there's a lot of study that goes along with it. Is it's okay with me if I go back on the nozzle and I'm in there, it's okay with me for you to say, hey, we're fixing to hit it. And I'm just gonna make God, hey, just be aware they're gonna wet it from the outside to get that reset on it.
I'd get out of the way if I was y'all. I'd
I
just
like
want to
what
let
you
them know,
think.
I'd get out of the way.
This
Yeah.
is going to hurt.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard for years, you're gonna end up, creating so much steam that you're gonna steam burn everybody. You're
Mhm.
upsetting the thermal
I
balance.
might back down
And
a
there-
floor or whatever.
Part of it's
you
the,
know.
like you said, the length of time that you're flowing the water. Like, you're not gonna sit there and just flow and flow and flow. But, short bursts can
It's just
take,
my opinion.
but they've done studies where that short burst can take something that's 1,200 degrees down to 600 degrees. So, that's all, 600 degrees is way better than 1,200.
So in short, I think, as a battalion chief, speaking to battalion chiefs, I feel comfortable allowing that to happen instead of not allowing that to happen, with some information that goes along with it.
Well, that conversion, as long as they're not in the room with the fire,
Yeah.
I mean, or right outside of it,
Right.
they're,
If they're in the room with it, they would have probably already applied.
Probably
water.
already gonna have water.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
That's the problem.
But
That's why I'm
that
like,
is good. But I'm just trying to look at the things that we didn't look at before,
Right.
and the things that we talked trash about, or we were looked down upon. I mean, you know, I had a meeting with my guys this morning, and I was like, hey, fastest water to the fire may mean that you drive to the fire, and you pull tank water and attack a fire, and then the second do. You know what I'm saying? That I'm okay with that. It's not an end all to be all, but that used to be a no-no, right? It used to be, they never catch their hider. You know, that was sort of thing. They never do that. There's a right and a wrong, and there's a decision to be made. But my point is I don't want to cuff them to one thing or the other. That's what we're talking about doing is equipping your toolbox with this stuff. What is? All right, so he's been on scene just a moment. What is this building?
apartments?
College dorm, that's what it speaks to me. See the smoke coming out of this one, so there's either a window there or another opening? Is it anybody find it unusual that it's coming out of here with the speed that it is versus the fire there? The continuity between these two, how many units do I have involved?
At least 3.
Yeah, more than one, right? Something doesn't look quite right to me here.
Going down a hallway.
All right, what's happening right here? What do you think? He's been on scene for a little while, the car. Are they putting water on it maybe? Does that look like some steam conversion to us there?
Yeah.
Could be.
It's not slowing down.
Vertical or not vertical?
It's very difficult to get vertical on this.
Will a 35 get me there?
Yes, but what's the time? How long is it gonna take you? What advantage are you gonna have, you know? I mean, if you could do it.
It's a top floor unit,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I mean, you can
So
do
this-
it. It's just time. I mean,
It is
it's a
time.
matter of how much time it's gonna take you to do it.
Sure, it's a small compartments.
And I like
What else?
that.
If I need those efforts in other places, you know, it might
Right.
be in this one, I might have an extensive search operation and I need
That's
two
where I
ladders.
was going with it, is it,
Yeah.
I mean, is the advantage gained by putting people in clearing apartments or putting somebody on a roof? It's clearing apartments.
And that's
I
the
mean,
decision, that's the decision
right.
we make everyone.
Right.
In a perfect world though, if I need ventilation here, when did I need to start it? When did I need to start that effort to get a hold of this?
Now,
roof?
I mean.
When you got there,
got there,
right? I
yeah.
mean, cause it's gonna be after the fact.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's gonna
before.
take you 10 minutes to
Right.
do it, to get there.
Okay, so everybody get that process. Our reality is we probably wouldn't cut a hole. It's a third floor unit, and I think that I've got a lot of exposures. I think I've got a lot of rooms to clear in it. College dorms, you know, they go to bed at, I don't know what time,
1, 2,
6 o'clock in the morning, and then wake up at, 2 o'clock, take a nap, and then go back, whatever. But I still haven't figured out my freshman's schedule, but she's doing good in school, so I don't question what time she.
Well, the other thing on that, is the use of my ladders better for means of egress and searching from a window.
Right.
In the VEIS aspect of being able to access some of those windows versus putting somebody on a roof. I just don't know if it's,
I move it down a floor, is vertical ventilation a good option for you?
no, it's not an option.
So, all right. All right. Large commercial structure, manufactured maybe, right? About 15-foot side walls. Maybe pre-engineered steel building, looks like. Oh, they're gonna show us an aerial view. This right here is a firewall. The old boat boys. Everything's good? Oh, no. All right, electrician. All right, I got heavy smoke showing. Vertical or not vertical? Why not vertical?
Metal prefab building, though, it's just,
Hmm?
Not very solid.
Metal roof? Yeah, that pitch makes it a bit of a challenge. If it is a pre-engineered steel building, If you can walk on them, the holes go really quickly. But what is the smoke? Does the smoke warrant a hole in the roof?
No.
Why not? What does that smoke lack?
Volume,
Pressure.
pressure.
Yeah, it's plenty black, but look what it's doing. It's laying lazy down here. If I cut it out there, most of it's gonna come out of that door, so it's not super hot.
You gotta overcome the opening.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not what happened.
Now, what is going on here? What's on fire? Tires?
Pallet or something.
All right, boat.
Yeah.
I mean, is it an
Plastic.
engine? All right, right now they're gonna tell you, be advised, I have multiple victims in the building. That's what he tells them here on his radio traffic on this one. If he's got multiple victims in the building, what are they doing?
Trying to put the fire.
They're trying to put the fire out. But based on what you're seeing right here, they're in there, something screwed up, an engine caught fire, whatever it is.
It just changed
Yeah,
colors.
and it just changed. I mean, I don't know if they acted on it. It's not the hose companies out there. But this one, your first one is all crap, and it's like, hey, something doesn't fit right. What's your hose selection? 1.88? It's 2.5? What? 1.88 will probably put it out. I think I got plenty of room to pull a 2.5 in it. I'm gonna default to the bigger hose. And I say, you know, in words of gossip 20 years ago, it'll put out a trash can fire too, or golf. I remember we pulled one in, it looked kind of like that one day, and it wasn't much enough in burning it. But he said, yeah, we put that out. But he was right. You know, I can go smaller from that point, but I don't think I've got a lot of fire. I baited you on this one. You know what I'm saying? I told you there's probably not much of nothing to it, but it is a big building. And it could have traveled a great distance, right? What if this is the only door open and there's a firewall here and the fire was in this part and that's what's coming out? So it's slowed, it's traveled a great distance.
Oh, yes.
That changes things a little bit, right? But I would expect to see it leaking out of somewhere else. I didn't see that indication.
That's why 2.5 would be better, just because you are ready with more
Yeah.
water.
And fortunately, we're a whole lot better at pulling 2.5 than we used to be, thanks to the training center. Well, and folks associated with it. All right.
Hmm.
Oh, that's something that's okay.
Old apartments or new apartments? They're older.
Older but renovated.
All right? Flames are right there in potential. They've done all they're going to do in one aspect, on the reading smoke scale. So where's your biggest smoke read on this?
The back seaside.
On the seaside. What did you see?
Yep. Building.
Why does that not look like that?
They haven't lit off yet.
Why is it not lit off?
Stars.
Mixture's not right.
Don't have no
Mixture
fire.
was not right whenever it come out of it before it started dissipating up there. So could I light that smoke if I had a torch in my hand on the
Yes.
back side of it?
Yes.
Yep, that's all it lacks is that continuity between that ignition point to make it pop. Is this a concern for me back here? Not just for the smoke read, but what about, it might be common to all those other apartments, it might be, you know,
Like a,
Cross
That
Creek
costs
of
off.
Delwood
Yep.
Drive and Fairfield Avenue on a fall, 17 Bravo, 9-year-old female.
had several things come up about this apartment that's out there. Where do you want to put your first water?
on the fire.
Too much fire.
From where?
Street.
All right, from here. So what if, we go back to that same thing, what if this company pulls their 1 3/4 in here and I have somebody else hit it from out here? Is that okay?
Yeah.
If you're that engine company, would that be your preference?
You'd probably cool those off.
Yeah, but you have a hard
You
time.
gonna be mad 'cause they hit it before you.
Well, yeah, well, I'm always gonna do that. I can tell you a story that goes along with that too. We went on one in the county and he works here as well. And I hit it through the window. I didn't have gear on. I showed up, wound up stuck in command, and he showed up. I was mad because he was getting to fight fire, so I hit it through the window, put it out, and he was mad. Not just because I put his fire out, because he had an expectation when he went in. He looked at the outside, he went in, and he's expecting to find the fire. We didn't find the fire, so he's banging around all over the place. Because it's like, I saw it, I know what, you know, I've got a program in here. So it did change his outcome, and he talked ugly to me for quite some time. I laughed at him for quite some time, and I like to bring it up on occasion. If he was a better firefighter, he would have been there first or something, I don't know, whatever. What about this discharge? 100%? Window still intact? Maybe mostly 100%, where's it getting its air from? somewhere else, right? Somewhere else. Survivability in this
We're getting
apartment.
there, baby.
Not, not good.
If I VES this window from a ventilation standpoint, what's gonna happen?
BS from what we,
Dang ladder truck.
What window?
Get that
You
thing.
know, window?
it's like, dang it.
If I VES that window, what do I expect to find?
Not probably, if it's all one unit, then probably no survivability.
Right. But I better be quick to close the doors, my fault. You know what I'm saying? I mean, whatever, just make that prediction. That's what this is. You make this your fire, but you make the predictions off of that. Has the hose line got to it?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay? Now would I flow water in here?
No.
No. Okay? It's that simple, but sometimes, like I said, those discussion points, we leave part of it out. How long is that roof gonna hold up on this building? How long will that thing burn before it burns through the roof?
Pretty good one.
15 minutes? 30 minutes?
It's an older
40 minutes?
building.
It's a long time. Why?
Older building.
Older building, heavy construction, true timber. Wasn't even plywood in there, okay? Nothing a half-inch thick, no engineered lumber went along with this one, right? How about ventilation? What's your ventilation choice? All right, we say horizontal right now. If that had that built-in hatch with a string that I could pull from the ground, would I pull it to begin with, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but it didn't have that, right? How long is it gonna take me to get a full hole in that roof?
I'm guessing one.
All right, how am I gonna get there?
You think you
35 is
could've,
not gonna get me there, so I gotta get an aerial set up.
you think you could have done it before they hit that fire?
No, sir.
That's all I'm thinking too.
No,
So I
not
just
at
went
all.
positive pressure.
Now, by the same token,
Yeah.
even after they've hit that fire, if I could get the heat out of that apartment, am I making it better on the guys?
Yes.
Am I making it better on the overhaul, shorten the overhaul time event and everything else? I'm not telling you I'm gonna
Yeah.
do that.
Well, I know, I'm just thinking positive pressure set up, they had it done, it'd been, you know,
Right.
we could
Let's-
still do that.
Sure.
And move some air out with positive pressure.
These are small compartments, so the positive pressure's gonna work for us pretty good at that point.
Yeah.
Vertical's always gonna work, and it's gonna
Yeah,
have ceilings.
It's gonna be right.
I mean, you know, like I said, I didn't, that's where God
I wouldn't
intended
say
it. He
no,
pushed
but
it up
yeah.
there, we're just letting it out, right?
Yeah.
We're just doing our part. But vertical's gonna work good for us. That I know. But what else am I compromising here? Think about this one. Talk to your ladder companies. I cut a hole in this roof. Now, this apartment, this is probably gonna be tenable,
Yeah, I
potentially.
get it, yeah.
Now it's gonna rain in here and ruin their stuff that's, I mean, seriously, you gotta start thinking about if there's nothing else gained in it, if this one's a total loss, and they're gonna bulldoze the building, but they're not gonna bulldoze this building. This one's gonna be back in operations, and I cut a hole in it, and I got a leaking roof and everything else. It might not have been that case. You know, just make a conscious decision. And then learn from your mistakes. Do it every day.
Yeah.
But the
Amen to
time
that.
frame it takes to cut that, depending on what's up there, is gonna be an issue.
It's gonna take a lot,
It takes-
right? I mean, that one's gonna be, I say a lot, but that's a,
Probably, just based on the area of the building.
right, it's flat, so,
Right.
you know, chainsaw may work for me, but it's gonna be tar and gravel. So, you know, my saw of choice would be to,
Chop.
chopper blade, and it's gonna cut it in there pretty quick, but it's still a 15-minute job.
Okay.
Probably a 15-minute job. Time I gotta do aerial access to get up, you know, to get us up
Yeah,
there.
to get up there.
So, but it's a tool, right? And that's kinda how I'll try to look at it and segment it out.
Yeah.
They're gonna rehab after that or need bottles, one of the two. And that 4x8 hole that I told y'all about, and those good companies that can cut those in 15 minutes, they're rehabbing after that. You can count them. They'll go do something else for you, but they're not real good at it, all right? I mean, everybody's probably in better shape than I'm in, but I'm telling you, I had some brutes with me through the years, and after you do get that work, they generally need a break.
All right.
Cellar.
I've seen this one.
Yeah, they just get that one.
All right, we'll do this one as the last one in the essence of time here. All right.
Ooh.
Pause.
What is it doing? Tim's getting mad.
No, you're doing it, I ain't getting
Try the pause button this time.
Hey, look at that. I know.
There.
So this was Leesburg, Virginia, there, 23rd, 2021. All right, so not too long ago.
No.
All right, this is the definition of a taxpayer, in case you have one story above a mercantile. So we know what it was built. Has this been remodeled?
Yes.
Where's your main entrance? Is it here? There's an arrow right there, I cheated, okay?
But there's one of
Maybe there's parking lot here, that sort of thing. What is this space now? I
Residential
don't know, what's the guess?
or storage?
Probably
Residential or storage, usually.
Insurance? Lawyer? No. Oh, somebody makes a lot of money?
Makes a lot of money.
Okay, yeah, you're right. This might be a wide open space, a conference room, I don't know what it is, it might be, you know, somebody's pretty good sized office, whatever that is. This is an unrestricted opening, those brick were left out of there in order to get the 90 degrees ambient temperatures from the roof buildup out of, that's the vent. Much like that one there. That is not as concerning as something you start to see around the corner here. Two different occupancies? Probably, right? Now, they may have penetration between them. Originally, they were built separately. What do these vents tell you?
There's some crawl space underneath there.
Yep. You think that thing's got a crawl space right in there? I don't know. I bet it's got some sort of cellar in it. It's weird. It's a little odd. Downtown, you watch these, you got grates in them along the street and things you think didn't have basements in them, got some basements in them. Is this a complex building?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. One of the things we talked about in the big box class was light smoke, big box, second alarm. Light smoke, big box, second alarm. So when we pulled up on that one a while ago that I told you it was very similar to the smoke of the apartment complex in that building that was in ill repair in LA where they had funny little helmets. All right, would that have been a good second alarm start to begin with if you were actually going into that one?
Yeah,
Probably, right? You're gonna need extra units out there. And it's easy for me to do that initially, bam, you know, and I put that out of my mind at that point. All right, so is this a second alarm?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Play it, Chief. I don't know what led them to go to this door. And I wish my cameraman would have stopped watching fire trucks and stayed on my fire. Look at here.
Ooh, it's
Did you see that puff out there?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
What'd he do?
He introduced option.
He closed the door back.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Good
Good
for
job.
him.
Yeah.
Okay. Sharp guy, forcing another door. Okay. How did it get from here to there?
A whole bunch of
When I asked you on the first one, how long you gonna be there? How long are you gonna be here?
tomorrow.
Yep, tomorrow. I mean, if you've been on any of these downtown fires, they got more concealed spaces than they do the other style. And y'all body ecology, the fire had a body ecology with Smith's Mini Market. What else was on that corner? Stumblestilskins is down there now.
Yeah, I was
Not
done.
bad.
We went back out on the next day, and I don't find no fun in the folks at Young's Deli was down there. These buildings burn for a long time. That's one thing, they'll stand up for you. How about my ventilation? We're going to the roof? How long can I wait? Can I make a debate? You know, I don't know if I'm gonna send somebody to the roof. I think I will. We'll just wait. How long, when do we need to be up there?
No.
Now, okay? You gotta send them up there now. You gotta make that. My gut feeling is a roof vent will make a difference along with water application, okay? But it is in the void spaces in this building. I told you that's a roof vent, that doesn't go into that room in there, okay? So that's above that room. This room could be crystal clear, but there is a significant fire deep seated in this building. And it's pretty cool, we know all that from the smoke read. I mean, and we know that because we've been educated either by real world experience or classroom. But it is pushing smoke out of every orifice. What else y'all want to point out on this?
Cameraman will stay still.
I'm sure different people picked up on different things.
We'll turn it back and you can see it.
That's PK.
This getting bad.
So they put some ground ladders up here, good idea?
Yes.
Yep. Cause getting in from here to there to get your hose line advanced up there, it might not be your best friend. I mean, how many crews might need to vent this building effectively?
At least
2 or 3.
I got 3, I would say at least 2.
Yeah, I'm going with 3.
Yeah. We talked about a second alarm. You seen this before, you've been there? A lot of renovations in that thing, I would say. And then you compare it to other sides, other buildings. What's that right there?
Restaurant vent.
It's a restaurant vent. How much money had to be spent to turn that building into a restaurant so they could
bunch.
have a chimney on it? It's in the same, they're attached. They're probably 2 different owners, but they're attached. But those are clues as to what these things have looked like. The good news is, if they did that in these type of areas, they've probably been permitted. Okay, they probably went through the building for, stuff. They might have sprinkler systems in them. This one doesn't indicate that it does, but you get what I'm saying is versus one that looks like it's anybody that walked down the street, did a little wiring, a little plumbing, whatever. All right, since it's Saturday, I'll run the extra one from y'all. Does that need ventilation?
Yes.
Where's the fire at?
Downstairs.
Is there fire in this room?
Yep.
Is there fire in this
Like on
room?
that seaside.
Looks like it's downstairs.
Look at it again. I've cheated because I've already seen it.
Either fire on the bottom.
It started downstairs.
Started where?
On the back downstairs.
Yeah. Started on the outside and run up. Now this guy's commentating, so I know exactly where he's in here. So this one's all in the attic. Might it need a vent hole? Where's the water need to be applied? Actually, it's open, the soffit's burn out on the backside. Like I said, I can cheat. But
Water
the
up.
soffit, imagine you stand on the backside, soffit's melted out on it. They did a study on the fire on this thing, and it's pretty awesome, and it's so simple that you go to every one of those bays, spend a second, and they just literally progress. With your hand line, the 1 3/4 works great on that, and it goes up every one of those channels in that, between the trusses on it. And that's pretty much where they're gonna attack it from. Some of these lend themselves to a ventilation, vertical as well, but I'm gonna start with that. I'm probably gonna get set up for vertical, and I'm gonna be ready to call them off of it. That's my call on this fire. But not unlike the fire you had the other day, is it run right up the vinyl side and right up the outside. This guy's telling you that it started on air conditioning unit, so. We can cut these holes pretty quick in these roofs. They fall in pretty quick. And the companies that have done them have done a lot of them typically.
This makes me what, you got smoke pushing out that first floor window on the front.
Really? Okay. And I probably missed that earlier.
I just wonder if it hadn't gotten a little bit inside. I mean, it's still on the first floor, to the right of the front door on the A.
I missed that. Yep, you're
Right
right.
there.
It was leaking. All right. Any questions? Anything we missed? All right, and like I said, there's more, and we've run over longer than I intended to, but, anything to add? Anything we missed? All right.
I think Chief Phil's gonna, give me a copy of this, and I'll put it on the file market, and if y'all wanna use it at the stations,
The captains are gonna get this though, right?
I'm gonna make it accessible to them, yeah.
Oh, it's not gonna be an upgrade?
No,
Oh, okay.
The Ladder Academy class, won't be just like this, similar, but when we reviewed it yesterday, it'll be a little bit more teaching to it as far as ventilation.
Yeah,
It may have some of these type of
okay.
scenarios, but it won't be this.
And I know it's a lot to go out there and spend 2 solid hours with them, and a lot of companies that's out there, but, you know, like I said, we make it go get started with them, hey, pull up your own stuff, just, if you kind of go through that first part, you don't have to do any of this, okay? I want all the companies out there to watch, and I think it's good talking points, and I think everybody will take something away from it, not because I had anything to do with it, but I think that's the case, because I've been out there and had these discussions, and the folks in the room have enjoyed it, and the folks out on the line have enjoyed it. So, like I said, it's pretty cool, but like I said, if they got our buy-in from BC standpoint, I think it sells good to them too. And they can see that even us, I mean, and like I said, there's been a little different discussions, there are no right and wrong answers. One of the suggestions was that we take the clicker and we get the answers in there, and we could see where that was at. But I really didn't want to do that in this, you know what I'm saying, I just kind of wanted to open that discussion. If I give you the same parameters, we're probably gonna make the same decisions in a lot of ways, but we're gonna always have that little varied parameter, so it's always just good points of discussion.
One thing I liked about I thought worked well on the fires, Chief Drexler was